of interest? If not, stand approved as printed and move on to the reading of the minutes.
April 7th, 2026, Board of Supervisors met at 9 a.m. with Craig Dozark, Chair presiding. Members present: Schultz, Mulbauer, Dozark, Hayden, and Rosberg. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. The board approved Sheriff's Office quarterly report for January 26 to March 26.
For some reason today is asking for permission to record from.
I gave it permission.
Oh, you did,
to
okay.
record. Yep, I did. The board approved the sheriff's quarterly. The board approved the resignation of Mary Ann Brown, clerk of Union Township. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Schultz, to approve a public hearing for proposed budget fiscal year 27 for April 28, 2026 at 10 a.m. Board of Supervisors in the Board of Supervisors boardroom on the second floor of the courthouse. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the public hearing for budget amendment for fiscal year 2026 for April 28th, 2026 at 10:15 a.m. The Board of Supervisors boardroom on the second floor of the courthouse. Motion passed unanimously. Motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Schultz, to approve the nominations of the MSAC Crawford County EMS Advisory Council, Aaron Muck and Jacob Archer, CCMH representatives, Corey Gospel and Joe Gordon, EMS representatives, Ty Rosberg, Board of Supervisor member, Zach Rasmussen, non-voting advisor, Cindy Krudoff, Roger Kinkle, and one more to be announced at the next board meeting, residents of Crawford, residents of the county. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Hayden, to approve the alcohol license for Manning Manila Golf and Country Club. Motion passed unanimously. On motion, duly seconded, the board adjourned at 10:58 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Friday, 4:30 p.m. preceding the next meeting.
Thank you, Terry. Any additions or corrections? If not, the minutes stand approved as read. Move on to supervisor reports. Ty, why don't you start?
Okay, I really had a quiet week. Hold on, make sure I ain't gonna miss anything. Usually look this up while everybody else is talking. We were gonna try to have our first EMS MSAC. I'm gonna call it that, it's easier to do that. We were gonna have our first MSAC meeting tonight, but due to the fact that there's some storms going in and we have 2 fire chiefs and an EMA, and you never, and then we would have any kind of problems if there was like drops of tornadoes last night or something, I don't know. So if they have problems, that would be a deal. But then the other thing was, since we didn't have that person, Zach said, then they'd have to go over and start over again. So I thought, well, that's probably, if we didn't have it, back today, but we do, so that's good to hear. And so we're not gonna have that tonight though, and I'm shooting for Thursday to be our first meeting for that. Zach said he resent it to Cindy.
Well, where will you meet?
Our first time we sent out, we're gonna meet here.
This one?
No, probably downstairs. It's easier to get the access to that for Zach, because none of us have a key. I don't even know if there is a key to that door, is there?
Sure there is.
Is there a door?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, never seen it, so that's why I said that, so maybe that's something to consider in the future. Because it's a smaller group, it could be easy to have it here, and you really don't see us needing that, so it's easy to have it downstairs. We talked about, I asked him, I thought, what do you think of the hospital? He said, let's do it at the courthouse, it's easier to get everybody to a neutral location, and nobody feels like somebody's getting it back. Anyway, Cindy, ours showed that on mine showed that your email came back when they sent it to you. Did you actually get it? Because I've had that happen before, but you said you got an email.
Because I get it back. She does get it eventually.
I think she must have something that kicks out potential spam or something,
Mhm.
which some people do, that's fine.
Right, and
Usually
sometimes when I've replied to Cindy and it comes back to me that says she didn't get it, but she does get it.
I
You know,
think so,
Cause I'm
yeah.
like, hey, it said it
Didn't
was sent
go.
back, and Cindy's like, I know, I got it.
Okay, so I'll just take that from now on, maybe
Yeah,
since
you
now.
should include like a return receipt, so maybe it would tell him that she
Yeah, that's
got
what it
it.
did, it said that he sent it again, because it said try again on Zach's, because he sent it. And then, but it didn't say that on mine, but it did on his, so. In any event, didn't want anybody to miss anything. So we did that. I reached out to Latifa, I talked to her for probably a half hour last night on the phone, asking her, about stuff for how they do economic development, because Ames does an excellent job. And when I was doing some digging, she verified it, that Ames actually covers more than just Story County. They actually stretch clear with their economic development team. They stretch clear over to Carroll County. She thought they came that far. I mean, I know they do green and they help with it. And it's to get that professional person to help out, and then like these counties have their own little thing going on. But then you got the big high powered people that, you know, this is their forte is development. And
Who is Latifa?
she's Story County Supervisor.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's her actual name. I thought it was an acronym.
No.
No,
Gotcha.
that's, Faisal or something's her last name. She's on NACO, and then she's also on Central Iowa. She's a very sharp lady, so I thought I'd reach out to her because she also had the P&D, and she actually explained a little more detail how P&D works for them. That's the planning and development. They handle mostly, they have zoning out in the county too, the way it sounded. And we're ag, but if you want to build something out there, we do have to go through a rezoning thing. I think I was talking to you about that.
I don't know what you're building at, you'd have to do zone commercial or whatever.
Commercial or industrial.
Industrial.
Yeah, and so she was telling me that's their primary function, and then it sounds like that department does kind of what Carrie Kersey does for us and stuff like that as well, and then it kind of works through inspecting processes and make sure you got, if you're building a plant of 250 people, you got enough bathrooms in it and all kinds of minutia that, you know, the government takes care of, I guess. But she said they help coordinate with the economic development people, but they said they kind of lean more on having that be an official. So I asked her, I says, so do any of the economic developments then, do they also combine with tourism? She said, no. They have, in Ames, for instance, what did she call it? I think it was Discover Ames. That's what they call their tourism. They're people that do the tourism for that area. Discover Ames, I think, or something.
Do you think, is that on the Ames city budget, or is that once again in the county budget?
I think that's actually Ames City takes care of it, and then there's tourism, you know, there's so much of that's from hotel motel taxes and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that's it, but it's a separate entity, and I was wondering how the heck that all got put into one here. But just think about, because we're a small county, you know, smaller, I shouldn't say small, because we got some that are a lot smaller than us, but we're, you know, that smaller county, we're a rural county, how's that? I think you do everything like we've always done. You team a bunch of things onto a person because they don't have as much of one thing to do, and so that you can afford something, you know, you hump a bunch of things on it. Well, eventually, some of the things you start getting neglected, and that, you know, the attention devoted to them there should be. And to find a development person, I mean, trust me, it's the hardest thing to find. So I think if you could grow your own, and Stephanie was helping do that with Paul. I mean, she was taking him to things and training him and helping him get experience and wisdom on the subject. So I think there's some different things we got to evaluate going forward on this. And since now there'll be a little bit of a move by CDC to do something, since we virtually have no CDC at this point, it's just a CDC in name only. No people will be there shortly, and I think we really need to sit down as us and where do we want to take the county part? And when I was asking her, I said, so I was talking to some, like if we had somebody that was, if you hired a main CDC or a development person, and then that person could be that guides all the little ones that are popping up in our small communities now. I mean, Denison could, in a sense, create their own then. But like Dallas City and Manila and all them got their own development corporation in their community, but still don't have the ability to reach out like like when I went to Summit USA or working directly with the state development and all that kind of stuff. Because it takes some time to get to know all that stuff and know them people, and most of them communities are small volunteer groups. So if they had somebody that they could key to, that could direct things to them, or they could call and ask questions to, and then that's when she said that's what the Ames deal does, is it reaches out, and that's not just one person. It's an organization, and they reach out and they have that advice and can help. So she sent me some of their stuff, and I got it yesterday late, so I haven't went through it. It's on their job descriptions. Their names is Discover Ames. That's the tourism one. So like a Discover Denison, and that'd be what runs the Tri-City Barbecue, the summer nights, the winter socials, and all the other things. I mean, so that could be a separate thing all to itself. I mean, we've got a great start on great tourism things for Denison, and most of our small communities have got a great something. Also, I don't know if you do a Discover Crawford or something like that, but I think the Discover Denison, everybody does their own thing, and I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there at you. And when she was when I was talking to her, she sent me all the job descriptions of people, like the ED, and I don't know which else she sent me here.
How big a member board is the CDC board? How many members are on there?
10 to 15.
I was going to say 15 or 16 people. I mean, wow. I'm trying to think of how many show up consistently. At least 12 show up consistently, and I haven't been consistent as I used to be lately. But try to zoom in. But Paul was always so hard to hear on Zoom. He's got that soft spoken, and he seemed to always be a long ways away from Mariah, who had the mic, Anyway,
so do you think we should call their president, vice president, have them come to a supervisor meeting so we kind of give them some direction as to what we're looking for? Yeah. Or should a couple of us show up at a CDC meeting?
Who is their president right now?
You know what? Is Amy, might be the Wise Monkey Amy?
Oh, Wise
maybe, Monkey. Or
sounds
and I think is it Sherry from Smithfield's been running some meetings lately, so maybe I don't know if that's changed over because of all the stuff going on over there. I'm kind of out of the loop, I guess, but I'll have to check on that. Here's one of my big concerns from the county perspective, not from being from Charter Oak or anything else, but just the county perspective. Everybody on that board, other than me, now my truck line is a member to the board, but everybody on that board's from Denison. At least it appeared to me that most everybody that shows up consistently and votes is from Denison. So your majority of your focus is about Denison, which is fine. This is our industrial hub. It's a county seat. It's our biggest community. It deserves its fair share of attention for our growth. But we don't. I mean, Paul made a conscious effort to try to focus more on the outside community, and Mariah was helping with that. But still, the voting and what they want to do and how things are tend to be that way. And I'm not wanting to take that away from them on their tourism things, because that's 90% of what they focus on throughout the year. Because I mean, that Tri-City Barbecue takes up a ton of time when there's only 3 people to work on it. Now we have 0 people working. I don't know what their plan is, but I'm sure we'll hear pretty quick. But then with the hot summer nights now, them both take. There's more planning to it than, okay, we're having a party this week. You're setting up bands, and now the hot summer nights are more professional setup. So there's a lot more that goes into that. So I mean, tourism especially in Denison, is becoming a world of its own. And that's great. I mean, I have a great time at them things, and it's great quality of life of events. So, I mean, you got to. So I think it needs to have its own little entity. I mean, so when Latifah's telling me that, I'm thinking, gosh, that would probably be a better way to organize things here, you know? And then I think if they did that, you know, Evan was always making sure that because they were a nut for profit, that he was not gonna make any profit. She's president for part of that. I'm sure she knows what I'm talking about. And hot summer nights, I mean, without even trying, you can make profit and nobody'd notice the difference. So it could support itself, but it could start to help support itself. I mean, you still need the sponsorships and all that stuff, but it could start to take care of more of its own, you know? I mean, because there's a lot of people show up for that, you know? So there's things you could do that way. So this is why they don't start with me first. But I think that we need to really dig deeper into how do we want to go with this? Because if we don't, I mean, as we're dealing with this new property tax stuff as it comes in, we're going to have to find more ways to grow this puppy, or we're going to go broke before the state does, and they're on their way already. So, you know, you see what I'm getting at. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. What I've caught out of this is, I mean, as a board, we need to put some consideration to this, because obviously these small towns have been feeling left out of the equation, because if they're establishing their own development corporations, they're not getting results that they feel like the Crawford County Chamber of Development.
Yeah.
So we need to step back and give some consideration of, we're at a point now where we could pivot one way or another.
Yes.
And I think maybe now, after yesterday, maybe we missed a chance to make a connection when our state economic development lady was in Denison. I never even gave it a thought.
Yep.
Debbie Durham was here yesterday, and we could have maybe planted a little seed to get some collaboration from the state to help make
Wasn't
a
that the
start.
best news ever, though, not to take any of your thunder, but.
Well, an extra 500,000 goes a
Extra
long way.
Excellent. That was excellent.
But I think, yes, I think you're spot on here. I mean, we're at a pivot point to where we can stay down the same path, or really consider the bigger picture here and try to help out.
Because if you're gonna swivel and make a change, now's the time to do it.
We're at that point.
Because there's nobody there. They're gonna
Yeah, it's
replace
not like
it.
we're pulling the rug out from under them.
No,
It's just
right,
having a
exactly.
conversation, how does it look going forward?
And don't get me wrong, I don't think
We can help them all.
that's there. Thank you, Cal. I mean, that was what I think we need to build, is something that works with all of them, but each one of them can still do their own thing for something that they want to. Like with Charter Oak just started theirs, but Dow City's always, you know, Manila's had one. I think if you had somebody that could start to collaborate more with the state, or if you did something where you joined a group like Ames's deal there. I mean, that we're being told that we're gonna have to kind of unify our resources, right, with other counties or something. I mean, I do know that one of probably the smartest person in development in Crawford County is Stephanie Weeks. I mean, she gets this, you know, but she's having to be the manager out there now. Her time is just probably to devote to these kind of things 1/10 of what it used to be, you know? I mean, so I sure don't want to overtax her, but she's throwing a few ideas at me on things we could do. And so I'm just trying to reach out and figure some things out as fast as I can to help us figure out something, you know, while we're working with the CDC. You know, I think these organizations that we belong to and we give money to, it's got to contribute to our countywide vision, and more than just name only. If you understand where I'm going. I mean, we need to have people that can actually help generate, or a person that has to help generate, you know, the activity that we need.
Well, we have to have results.
Well, in the event, we definitely got to have results, but if we don't have the right people to attack the project or the mission, we're never gonna get mission accomplishment. I mean,
So Gene, did you
Well,
want to say
I was
something?
just kind of looking through the website, and they do an excellent job of
The CDC's
promoting,
website?
yes, promoting what is going on locally locally, open house ribbon cuttings, Mariah goes to different places but they certainly are not out looking outside of, it's just what it appears to me, their priority is to just let people know what's going on within our community. It's a big job, but.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing we gotta recognize. If you've got a staff of 3 people.
Yeah.
And you're gonna heap all these projects onto them. And they're gonna have to prioritize things. I mean, they have to get on these, like the Tri-City and the hot summer nights and the social, they gotta get on them because that's got a time that's gotta meet. We've gotta be done by this date.
Yeah.
And like for finding the bands for the Tri-City, my God, they were already doing that the day after we had Tri-City last week. You know what I'm saying? They're already working on next year's stuff almost immediately. So when people say, well, it's just a weekend. Not the planning it isn't. It's a whole year event.
But they've learned from past, after doing it for 10 years, that if you really want the band that you want, you know what weekend it is, get them scheduled in, so you're not taking sloppy seconds because the people you wanted already booked for that weekend. So they've learned, why wait? Let's just get her going. And so.
Well, and that's the thing is there's them timelines that they gotta hit to make all these benchmarks on things that we have to do for that. So, and that's fine. I don't want to do anything that discourages that involvement because let's face it, they're McCree events, but all of our communities have these key events and they're all taking care of themselves pretty well. I mean, Celeste, they rock it up there with their, the beef show days or,
Calf show
days. But and then Manila, their tractor pull weekend thing is really growing into something. You guys have your big horse show.
They do that Christmas deal and they do fundraisers for their daycare but they do use this website to get the word out. A lot of people look at this and.
Well, I'm saying that stuff's all, important to the community. And it gets the word out. I'm not trying to take anything away from CDC. What I'm trying to say is, did we overtask those 3 people? And then they weren't accomplishing I got on this board for a reason. There were some things that needed done, but my biggest reason was I was watching a county die. Sorry, our population's growth is shrunk progressively every census. At least the people that we know are here. We know we've got a quiet population that's hidden in the shadows, but how much of that is, I don't know. And them aren't people that are staying most of the time. They'll move to wherever the next better job is anyway. But if we want, to me, in Crawford County, Denison should be anywhere from a 25 to 35,000 people city. It should be. That's what I think it should be. And we're a long ways from that. But if you've got a city like that, it can grow its own. And then if that was that big, we would need, or at least to have the industry that supported that. All these other communities that we now just call sleeper communities or bedroom communities, they would have the opportunity to grow in housing. Because if you've got a vibrant, industrial or commercial hub, all the other ones can feed off that. And they're local. Even Aspinwall is only an 18-minute drive from Denison. Everybody's within a 20-minute drive, even in the snowstorms. You could be there in 25 minutes, So we can focus our energies on the development of Denison, but we can't forget the other ones out there too, because we always hear about housing not being. I just got into a conversation with somebody in Charter Oak, a longtime citizen of it, and they were just saying, well, we got to clean up these houses. That's each community's thing. That's the county can't do that. That ain't first of all, it ain't our responsibility, but we don't have the funds and resources to do that. And then if these new property tax things happen, we're surely going to be out on the land. So I think that we've got to find them development people. If we got to work in coordination, I don't even know that Ames would be interested in working with us over here in Crawford. Don't say that Latifah's, I'll never say they wouldn't be. If you've got an energetic base over there, they might be excited to help you. But, something to that effect, or just working on our own, I know Steph would help us do this. There's an avenue here that we could do something. I've been doing some visiting with her. It's just me though. I haven't really had anything to bring to you guys yet, but I'm bringing it to you now that I'm trying to help work on something that I think will help the entirety of the county. And I think if each of our towns that wanted to grow and I think everybody will follow suit eventually. Each one of our towns that wanted to grow created their own development thing, like Charter Oak has, and you guys have, and Slexwig's got. And then this, if we had a person that was the development person for the county, how do we finance that? I ain't got that far yet.
Yeah.
But, we gotta work on something different, because what we've had, we've been doing the same thing forever, you know, I mean, it's done some nice things, but it hasn't accomplished the mission yet, guys.
Yeah, Gene?
Do you visualize 2080 with other smaller counties around us that
We could. I mean, I know that Monona County is not gonna, they're losing their development person.
looking for a bigger,
So I'll just say, I asked REC if they would consider, because they're wanting to do development too. All your rural, or all your electrics cooperatives have development groups inside there, each organization, like our REC down here does. I'm sure Harrison County's REC does. But I said, what if we had a 2080 and we worked together? You know, I mean, her and I were talking about that, and she said, we're talking about working together. I said, well, if we work with you, we'd have to have a 2080. She said, well, I think there's people out there that are doing that with their REC. She said, so she's checking on that for us. Maybe that's an avenue. Then it's another help with financing a department or person to do this stuff. You see what I'm getting at? So we're working on a few, you know, I'm trying to find us some possibilities. I ain't got any answers for yet, because it's gonna take all 5 years.
How do we communicate to CDC that's looking at hiring an individual of the type of individual that we as a board want to see them?
Well, the last time we hired, and I hope I don't just have a bitter taste in my mouth because of this, but the last time we hired, that was my big thing, was I said, the director of CDC has to be primarily about development. I mean, if you have to have more people in there or something, you know, if the office manager, to me, that was a terrible title for what we needed Mariah to do. They should have called her something else. Anyway,
development coordinator,
what's that?
development coordinator.
Or just community coordinator or something to that effect. I mean, something simple that was broad encompassing. But I think that we have to have that. Well, anyway, that was my focus. And we had one person that was really good at, that was their thing of the interviews. And I thought we had a decent interview. We had some outside people step in and start discussing things with this person, and it blew it up.
You wanted some real cash though, if you remember.
Yeah, that's the thing. We call it real cash because we don't have a budget like a names. So that's the thing we got to figure out. What does it take to hire this person? And I'm going to tell you, you could probably get below 100, and you're going to get somebody you got to train. I'm not saying that's impossible. If we do something, you know, we can get something, but there's some plans that got to happen there, and we got the person that could actually help make that training happen. And Stephanie, what's that?
The problem with bringing someone in and training them, you have that time period in which they're training them, and you have your resources invested in training. Then as soon as they get trained and they're excellent, they're going to move on.
No argument.
Is what,
Point what they're doing.
is Western Iowa Advantage still active?
Yeah, you know,
You know, they were supposed to be a group of western counties that looked at the whole area. And I would think that even a lot of those
More than
counties
that
are probably still struggling. I just wonder if there's
I
any
think most of
collaboration.
what I'd seen in that was most of it was about tourism, Dave.
Really?
Every time I'd hear something about Western Iowa Advantage, it was mostly tourism outreach. You could go post things for events on their page and stuff like that. So it was, once again, and I got extremely frustrated with the hiring process, because we ended up going back to where we were gonna end up with somebody that was focusing primarily on tourism again. And I won't get into the other details that made me bitter, but we weren't focusing on that person. And that's why I think this table, we need to decide. Is it worth the investment to find somebody or create somebody that is about development? It is about the economic growth, which will inspire the residential growth. I promise you that if that new Smithfield plant that's gonna be built up in South Dakota was gonna be getting built somewhere here in Crawford County, there'd be people showing up from Omaha, from Sioux City, and from Des Moines that are developers saying, where do you guys get opportunities to build housing? What about row houses? What, you know, they would show up because all of a sudden there's something amazing coming to town. So when they talk about the chicken or the egg in the development versus residential versus people got to be able, we already ship out more people than we keep in town for work. We do. Or people go up to Ida Grove or down to Harlan or over to Carroll. Maybe more, but we probably have an equal number going out of county. I mean, there might be some people coming in from out of county, but we ship a lot out already. So we gotta get some development here. Give people a reason to stay home here. You know, this is what I'm thinking of. I'm telling you guys what I'm thinking. But this board's gotta decide, and sorry, you gotta decide, we've got an expedited reason to think about it now. We've got to decide where we wanna go with, Crawford County and development. Do we want to see Denison look like Buck Grove someday? And I mean, I'm obviously being over dramatic with that, but you get my drift. If we wanna keep watching everything shrink, you know, I mean, I don't anticipate any of our industry leaving this town. I really don't. In fact, when I do some queries on my own out in the business world, I really don't think they will. I mean, potential is always there. I mean, we don't know what an economic downturn can do to anybody. I mean, I'm sure Tyson's closed some plants other than just here in Denison that they didn't plan to. But we've got to figure out where we're wanting to go with development. And we got a county that's harder to develop than a Carroll County, or even Harlan's got a lot of nice flat ground to where they can build big industrial parks. But when I was out doing things, you know, like that Summit USA thing I talked about, shovel-ready projects or areas, spec buildings, that's a very popular thing. Yet people, there's not enough spec buildings out there. People are looking for that. I mean, it seemed like it took forever for this spec building, but I think that was because it wasn't as much research done to figure out what's the best type of spec building to get the most interest. I don't know if that was done. I wasn't there, so I don't know. It might have been. And at the time, it might have worked right. I don't know. Or it might have looked right, I should say. Because I know that one sat empty for a long time.
It did.
Before that chicken plant got in.
It did.
And sometimes you're gonna have that. Because if you're on an economic downturn when it finally gets built, obviously a lot of people aren't gonna be looking. But you gotta be prepared for that. If you don't have things, and you know, it's like with Steph, to get the electric stuff, you know, to build a substation, 3 to 5 years. Now, if you get an industry that's interested in coming in, it might take them up to that 3 years to decide where they're going. I don't know. You know, it depends on what it is, but we have nothing prepped. I mean, we've got a few lots available. We don't have an industrial farm. I know the one that was out there on the other side of Fort Dodge on the east side sat there for a lot of years, but now it's full. You know, but they had some roads in there. I don't even think you want to do that, but we want to get something leveled off, and we might want to borrow our secondary roads. I don't know how we can do that budget wise. We'd have to figure that out, but to do that to level off the plot somewhere, if it's a county project.
So is there communication between, I guess, development unlimited? They own some property just on the south side of town.
South side of town, yeah. They kind of do their own thing there. See, that's the thing, is we don't have that person that coordinates on that. And I know Manila's got a sizable chunk of ground. I mean, if we've got somebody that site selectors, you ever talk to one? You ever know where they are? They're all over. That's what every big industry in America uses to go out and find them a place. This is what we're looking at. We're looking to build a plan of this many square feet. We'll have to have this much park. I mean, then they'll figure out what else. What's that?
And water.
And water, yes, ma'am. You know exactly what I'm talking about there. But you got to have all those things to that. You know, if you got all that prepped and ready to go park, you know, then the site selectors will start to evaluate your community. Highway 30. I mean, Latifah said you're on Highway 30. So maybe that would be it is a prime artery as far as not being a 4-lane. It's the busiest 2-lane in the state. The second busiest traffic corridor, period. I mean, it's a good opportunity for us, but sorry,
yeah.
I'm trying to stop. Quit asking questions.
All right.
Well, I think it's just
I'll stop you.
we get the right 28E. I think financially it's not out of the question to make something.
Yeah.
Investment into our future is what's gonna give our county additional or new revenue streams that's gonna make us strong in the
I
future.
would like to bring up one more thing when you're thinking about this and you're talking to people. Ask them what they'd like to see in Crawford County. I don't want to build my vision for Crawford County. I want to build our vision for Crawford County. And that's what Latifah said. What's your 5-year plan? really don't have one for this.
I think if we as a board put the seeds out, the community will, the seed will grow and they will reap what they want. I mean, you'll have people step up and say,
I agree.
well, let's build a soy plant or let's build whatever. But if they have some place to build it, what we planted, they're more likely to do it.
We can always stay geared towards agriculture, we can diversify it a little bit. You know, that's the thing is I think everybody that's our age, from Dave's age to our age, I think everybody was all after the same thing. We want our grandkids to stay here.
Yes, we did.
We want our kids to stay here. We want to have a reason for them to come back here and bring them skills that they develop when they're in college. Bring them home. We need you to come home. We want you to come home. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of traveling for me to get to every grandkid, and mom's going to make me go. That's what every grandpa's looking at. Oh my God, I'm not even going to be able. I'm going to have to trade cars every 2 years now to get to all the grandkids. But you see what I'm getting at? I think that's what our objective is.
Kyle, what do you think you wanted to talk about with you last week?
Well, I had a conservation board meeting last Wednesday. I think, Ty, I mean, that's worst times being spent on.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sorry I took so much time.
the highlight of that is the campground opened last week. So, but 421 kids registered for summer camp. So, I mean, that's a hit out there.
It is.
Kelly does a great job with that, and they kind of got overwhelmed with. It was all within like a couple hours, and kids, I think they kind of blew up their phones and computers and stuff. So, kudos to that.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it will be coming here pretty soon. I thought it was gonna be on maybe next week's agenda. Ben Wallace with the Fish and Wildlife will be here, and Chris to talk about the lake restoration plan that they are proposing at Yellow Smoke. Be a $4 to $5 million project.
You expect Chris to get a hold of Terry to
I
be
would
on
hope
the
so.
agenda?
I would hope so.
That's not your responsibility, right? That's Chris's.
I'm not, I don't think they'll coordinate that. So it could be up to a 2 to 3 year plan. And out of this 4 to 5 million, the county will be for like 25% of that. But Chris anticipates a lot of that being through public-private partnership stuff with grants. Ike's usually likes to kick in Pheasants Forever, stuff of that nature. Money in he's got a kind of a plan laid out, so we wouldn't be asking for a lot of tax dollars to fund this project. Minimal tax dollars, if any. Depends on what scale of the project they end up deciding as well, so. But the conversation gotta get started sometime, and that's what the plan is, to have that initial conversation and open meeting here at the board in the near future. I'm not gonna say exactly if it's next week or whenever it works out, so.
All right, look forward to that.
Yeah. And the other thing is they got a big water leak out there that they can't find. It's just so dry that, it's
Pipe, water leak?
yeah, they've got it narrowed down between the old tubing hill and the nature center. It's
Oh, wow.
considerable. I mean, I think last week they spent quite a bit of time with a mini excavator digging holes, and you think you'd find mud, but
Can the divining rod find that? You know what? They say them things.
I'm sure somebody that's grounded at the earth pretty well maybe could help locate it, but I know they were talking with DMU and coming out and putting some actual shut-off valves in to try to just isolate it, so.
But all you can is
How do they know that is it just by meter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How they know?
They had a shut-off, I think there is a shut-off valve at the tubing hill, and they shut that off or something, and it didn't slow it down at all. But now that the roadside is back functioning full time and they're using water for seeding, it's the meter that it's gonna be, they were really had it pinpointed while roadside was gone. because they weren't using water.
Right.
So now it's gonna be a little more difficult, but that was as of Wednesday. They were really hoping they could have it figured out by then, but they spent a considerable time digging holes and trying to isolate it. You know, you think hydrant connections or something, but they dug most all them up and haven't found them yet.
Anything else? Dave?
Oh, yeah, I had Region 12 last week. With your executive board meeting. That was the fast we went over for our vouchers for approval. We did accept our 2025 audit, which I do have for you now with me today. I'll bring it up. So that is finalized. Then we went into our policy council meeting. Pretty much business as normal. We have some yearly resolutions we passed for transportation planning work program, and then transit funding application. We went over our local system report, transit report, executive director report. One thing of note that was interesting, talking to Matt, who's at transit, our buses. You have the federal funding level is 80, it puts an 85% ceiling on it, which puts the COG match to buy a new bus at like 15%. Buses have gone through the roof for what they cost. So now the price of a bus is over the federal ceiling. So now, because they only match 85% up to a certain dollar amount, say 150,000. So if bus goes over that, now our COG match is 26%.
What kind of buses they buy?
These are like your 18, 19 passenger buses.
Okay, it's
Like
like,
a van front, they got the door where you can get, because they always gotta have a wheelchair.
okay.
Yeah, ADA and all that. Which I asked them, and they said, yeah, we're gonna dip into our reserves a little bit to help cover this cost and kind of ride it out to see where we're at. No pun intended right now, I guess not. But, I said, well, how long can we do that? I mean, if this is the new norm and buses cost this and we only get that back, and are we gonna have, and so that's gonna be a tough decision. I mean, we'll write it out for the time being, and it might be to the point where as we trade in vehicles, we might have to cut back on our fleet. I mean, that's the last case scenario that you don't wanna have to do. And some of them asked about trying to keep some of these vehicles longer. And Chris Whitaker laughed, he said, when we trade them in,
They're dope.
we have so many miles on them, and they have a good, you know, they keep things up and their regular maintenance and oil changes and stuff like that, but he said, we get about every last drop out of our vehicles we can get.
And they gotta keep them to where they're reliable
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
safe.
and safe, yes.
So it's something that they're watching very closely, just how things have kind of shifted and how do you provide those services with increased cost.
You know, that seems to be a lot of trouble, the things that go coming out of either the state or federal government. You know, it's just like with our farm bill. It don't keep up with the inflation. You know, when you do keep doing continuing resolutions to support these entities, and then, and this call comes under the rural development, I'll bet a lot of this money on the farm bill. And if it ain't keeping up, you end up with going from 15 to 26% to now you can't afford it at all. You know, because it isn't keeping up.
So Gene?
Oh, can I make one quick thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I did have state ECI in this, Gene, for you to know. There's a lot of concern about the new funding formula and how it would shift. They wanted to shift more money into home visits, which a lot of local areas were like, we need it where it was at because of home visits, so we're not using that as much or not. This is my own opinion, but it kind of sounded like HHS wanted to shift that money to there, so if it wasn't used, they can take it back. Long story short, we approved last year's allocations, so kept things the same.
Okay.
Lakes area, well, Annette talked to us about merging.
Mhm.
We approved that as long as the local boards approve it, then it's good. We said, why don't we do last year's funding amounts, so everybody knows where they're at, and it's not this huge change and fluctuation, we can dig into that more later. And like with Lakes area, we said, well, that should be split in between Annette and Dunslick, or the areas to cover that. and then 102,000 would go to you guys as well, because that's what they're carrying over, whatever they had. I thought it was interesting, and I give Emily, our chairman, huge credit for this. Amanda Wins was like, I don't think we can just mathematically just allocate all funds. And Emily pushed back, said, according to Iowa code 226 or whatever it was,
First, everybody's done that.
state board has the power to allocate it however we want. We can put a dollar amount. And then that was, okay, I guess you're right, and so we kept
Pushback
things,
is good, pushback is good.
we kept things status quo from last year, so local areas know what their funding is gonna be.
All right, so all grants will be awarded as presented.
It should be same funding amount.
Good to know, good to know.
Gene?
I just want to remind everybody about the Hidden in Plain Sight trailer on Saturday. Do we have popcorn lined up?
It's Friday,
Friday, what did I say?
Saturday.
Well, there's something going on Saturday too, but it is Friday for sure. So, everybody will be there?
So I've got the popcorn popper, Crawford County Bank.
Okay,
Is,
Alright.
we can take that, use it. I've now had something come up where I'm gonna be gone, so.
Okay.
I
I think we'll have a lot of help there.
Okay.
We're working on all that, but we're expecting about 75.
Okay, so
So you want to pick up the popcorn popper?
I can. And,
Larry Anderson was who I talked to.
at Crawford County.
Yeah. I can text you his cell phone number if you want it.
All right.
All right, just want to remind you of that and.
Thank you for
yeah.
reminding me.
And I will,
I just had something come
I
up
should
at
check
that
we have
last minute.
popcorn and oil
Yeah,
and bags.
make sure we have that, so,
We
what
have
time do you
supply.
plan on coming down?
That's from a different fund, you're gonna have to fund something else. I'll check on it, but we fund that for, out of, what you call it? Oh my gosh, Terry, your brain.
Well,
Anyway, it's
Uh,
funded for, that other cause. Yeah, the crusade and through those funds, so we don't wanna fund your pop event with those.
how much do you suppose it would cost us?
Oh, it would be
I don't
minimal,
know.
I mean. Well, we shouldn't just start.
Is that
funding-
Wall Lake? Where
Yeah, I think we get it out of Wall Lake, yeah.
Yeah,
Snappy.
Snap.
Snappy, yes.
This little group doesn't have a lot of money out there, you know, most people are donating,
Mhm.
I'm donating the water, people are donating the cookies, it's kind of, because it's a new, but a net, or not a net, CPC thought maybe there would be little funds to help if we needed something, so we can maybe check into that, but pretty much people are donating the things that we need, so just a reminder on that, and maybe just another week, so Ben's here, we'll let him go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Again, update on the HMA project over there. I did finally kind of get in contact with the contractor. They are anticipating a late June start to the project. I know the late start date is June 8th, but that's when working days will start being taken down. But like I said, I believe that it's 80 working days they have. They anticipate that they realize they probably won't need all the working days and to fit it in their schedule, but working starting at the late part of June is.
It's gonna rain on July 15th to 25th, there'll be some rain days.
Okay.
Middle of July.
Is that from the fog?
That's from the
Okay. Good to know, we're gonna watch out for that.
Hey, our weather team here in the Crawford County Board of Supervisors is as good as anything we found on TV.
You know, I guess it's been holding true. I haven't been paying attention myself, but
It is solid.
we'll see. But yeah, so we'll probably have a pre-construction meeting, probably early part of May. They're discussing and just kind of go over the details of how they're gonna approach it. So more to be known there. So we have talked to the city of Charter Oak. They're still wanting to get some idea on cost, to possibly go through town there, but don't know if it's something that they're gonna be able to do or not, but trying to give them a hand a little bit, get chasing some numbers for them, so, but. And great crew, they're finishing up on E Avenue, much less week there, they should be done the next day or two. And then they're gonna head over to F Avenue, between 110th and 120th Street. A dirt section of road there, and then kind of as soon as they're finishing up there, right around the corner on 110th Street, take care of a couple snow borrow areas on 110th Street. Roger Cross, land, growth, sorry. Yes, the parcels along there that we're addressing some snow borrow areas there. And then, probably about a month and a half out from that P Avenue, moving down that direction after that. So just kind of give an idea of the direction they're heading with that. So, bridge crew, they're continuing, they're repairing some of the culvert ends. We've been finding a lot of them where we got holes beside the road and just relaying some end sections of some concrete pipe, trying to get a lot of them addressed, before we really get jumping into the bridge construction end of things. And got a lot of them kind of things, rearing their head in the springtime here, and chase after a few of them before we just do other items. So
Just to make you feel better, those were supposed to be reattached before the last time that highway was overlaid, so.
yeah, we do have Denko, gonna come do a bit of an assessment on a couple of them as possible candidates to do some grouting, where we can see separations going on underneath the road, and as a alternative to doing a liner through the culverts, maybe be able to grout the seams, and depending on how much movement we see in the culverts, and see if that's
You think that's effective? I mean, just putting.
That's a conversation I'm gonna have with them.
Have we done that
It would
before
be.
ever?
We have,
Okay.
now, I guess I haven't seen it personally done, but I know it can be done. All depends on how much movement the pipe still has going on. If it's still continuing to separate, it's probably not gonna hold. They can somewhat assess whether or not it's
Okay.
gonna be an effective fixed culvert. It's definitely a cheaper option than a liner. It might merit trying it on a couple of them, but they're gonna assess a few of our culverts for us. They don't charge us to come out and do a little bit of an assessment and see what we can do on a few of them. So, but and we can always watch what they're doing. If we think it is a fix for some of these, we can do a lot of that ourselves. But I don't know if the guys have ever really done much of the grouting, so we'll kind of watch what they do if we do have them do some, and know what kind of products they're using, and see if it's something we can do on our own. So, but like I said, end of the month here, I think they're going to be out and take a look at a few. Roadside crews are out seeding. I believe Kuro Yard there. I think they're up there doing some seeding up there.
Yeah, fence line, anyway.
I seen them do the green crap that blow.
Yep. And getting our entrance put in up there as well. Hopefully this week.
On the state side.
Yep. So we'll try and get that shaped up. Again, they're not planning on using it, the contractor, for a batch plant site. So we're gonna shape it up for our purposes, I guess.
I went by the Woodbine plant the other day. It didn't look like there's much room to put a batch.
I don't know where they're gonna put it. That's exactly what I was thinking, Kyle. They're doing a bunch of digging and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I kind of holding off on doing too much, bringing in piles and whatnot, just in case they do change their mind, decide they want to use the yard. It is still available to them, but we'll leave it at that. We'll see what they want to do.
The only thing I thought the same thing. Well, the only advantage is they have a lot of maybe possible material right there that they won't have to truck to Charter Road, but otherwise they're half a mile away from your project. So all the materials there. I don't, they got it figured out, but I think maybe call Alex and tell them don't get in a big hurry about moving their piles down there. But I don't see where they put it right now down in Woodbine.
I agree with you, Kyle. I was looking at that the other day when I drove by and Sunday.
Yeah, I guess I haven't been by there to see what they got for room, I guess. That's what I guess.
I don't say.
In the corner over here?
For now.
ISU, they're out there supposedly, they're rolling in about 9:30 to do their final testing on Lloyd Boulevard where we did that granular optimization study. They're doing their final round of testing on the road. I'm not sure all the tests that they're running, but I'm sure that we're gonna have to compaction test to determine what the compressive strengths of the roadway is. And they did some, the test sections here, and then they did some in Chickasaw County. So I would imagine after they're done with their testing this time around, they'll compile their results and see what they kind of determined as far as what was the best optimization of surfacing.
How long does it
what
usually
the
take for them to-
limestone versus gravel is?
For them to compile their results? Is that another 30 days you hope to hear back, or?
I don't know, a grad student project, I'm not sure what their timing is.
Well, it's kind of a nice hands-on project for future engineers, I guess.
It'd be interesting to see the results.
It would be, but just when they do get the results, we'd be very interested in seeing them. I'm sure it's something that would be presented either at a conference or whatnot, and or be giving us the results by all the counties and kind of what they're finding. So we'll see what comes. And like I said, it was a good project. We got a lot of good limestone out on the road to see see how it holds up. But yeah, when I leave here, I'm gonna go check out their testing, what they're all up to out there. So, Silco roads and pavements, I'm gonna be going assessing a lot of that with our seal coats, how they're looking, see if we want to do your magic or overlay on a couple of our seal coats. Of course, South Bay Loop, and Dow City, some very Boyer Boulevard, bottom, down areas for assess what the seal coats are looking like, patching, crack sealing, just assessing our pavements to see what we need to be doing on all fronts. We do have our pavement markings going to be going on. Hopefully, end of the month here is when they're planning on coming to do pavement markings. There, we're trying to save a little bit, working with local traffic services. I think that's what they're still going by, but they kind of split up as their own entity now, and so they're trying to get us better deals, drop shipping the class beads directly to our site here, and possibly purchase the paint directly from Diamond Oval, saving on the cost, not going through them. They're just looking for ways to save us some money in that regard, using as much of last year's self-paint as we can. We always have. It's just leftover paint from last year that they discounted at a little bit better price. The quality is still there. So I know we've always taken advantage of however much of that we can get. So it makes a difference of a few dollars a gallon. So,
But it would be with the new law coming in effect July 1st, I think we talked about last week, we'll be painting our lines. And did you check into that? If we have to change all our passing zones and stuff?
Briefly discussed a little bit at the Region 12 meeting last week. Nobody knows really what the guidance there is yet. As far as what's all going to have to be done. I'll have to dig into more of that yet. I really haven't seen the full effect of what we're going to have to do in response to that. So
All unintended consequences that you never think
I
about.
meant to ask that Saturday at
the legislative topic.
Yeah.
So it is the law that has been passed. It goes into effect July.
It hasn't been signed, I don't think, by the governor, so I think it's been passed, is that right?
I think it's passed.
I think it's passed and signed.
So you should sign.
Didn't she sign it already?
I thought it was.
Okay.
I hadn't heard.
Well, I
But I
could
wasn't paying attention.
I got the impression
neither.
it was a done deal, my personal self.
Yeah, that's what I
Because
thought
it
it was.
wasn't like, oh, you gotta wait, we thanked you,
She's getting enough flack on Facebook.
Governor signed the bill.
Anyway. Anyway,
Before we know it, I haven't dug into that. I anticipate something of that nature. We will be given some guidance from DOT on what needs to be done. But I will get you to look into that. So,
I've already started driving 60, so.
and of course, our DOT budget and program has been submitted to the DOT. Submitted that a little bit before the 1st of April there. Trying to get in early and do some alterations need to be made. I haven't heard back from them, but they should be approving that on the DOT's end. And then, of course, it comes to you for approval, our program and budget. Still waiting for that to be approved by DOT, but, hopefully something, you know, I believe it has to be approved by the April 30th, so.
Okay.
Let's see when they get it back. I believe so, at least for one or the other.
Any other questions for Ben? Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You got another chair? Bring up.
I can bring one with me.
Bring your own? Kevin, bring your chair up. You guys both sit up here. But next on the agenda, we got Kevin and Lucas from DMU. Is that, I think last week, we had a discussion about water quality, and it seemed like it was like, how do we find out? We were talking about the growing cancer rates in the state of Iowa. We don't know what exactly, I guess they're doing in Crawford County. But in the state of Iowa and water quality, it's like, man, we have people in our community that we can ask those questions to. So why not ask them to come and let us ask them? So I guess you are the water quality guru for DMU?
I don't know about guru, but water plant manager, so.
Okay, so I guess I'll just let you guys take it, I guess however you want to take it. And then if we have questions, which we do, we'll rifle at you, but maybe you can just start off by telling us, I guess, the quantity. I'm just curious about, I guess, how long DMU's been here. And I know it's been a long, long time, but who you supply water to exactly?
Okay,
Who are your
so
clients?
I'll start off by the amount of wells, what we produce, things like that. Right now we have 12 active wells that we pull from. We rotate them daily. Anywhere from 200 to 600 gallons per minute, with the average being about 400 gallon per minute.
And those wells are located where?
Just along the Beer River.
Along the Boyer River, okay.
North of town.
Yep.
So we produce, our plant is rated at 7 MGD, million gallons per day. Right now, yesterday, for example, now we're flushing hydrants, so we went through 3.6 million gallons of water yesterday. Our average for this time of year is right about 3.1, 3.2 million gallons a day. Now our wells are in the alluvial aquifer, which is considered, you know, a shallow aquifer. They're drilled anywhere from 55 to 70 foot, where it's a confined aquifer because we got clay layer on top and then bedrock on bottom. So it's not as susceptible to surface water. DNR states that we're groundwater, not influenced by surface water. So that's just saying that the contaminants in the surface water aren't getting into our source groundwater wells. So now, obviously, when the river's up, our static water levels are up also, which is a good thing. We just don't get the high nitrates and what other chemistry is in the water for surface water. We're not getting that.
So how do aquifers work?
So,
Exactly.
so there's just like fractures in the ground, you know, bedrock. There's fractures that carry water, and they're doing hydrogeology studies all over. Because obviously it's hard to find like the size of the aquifer. You know, I can't tell you if it goes up to Deloitte or how wide, you know, it's not a very wide band, no. But yeah, it's more like a hydrogeology, doing drill studies and stuff like that to see the quantity.
Does water always come into the aquifer?
So it's always.
No matter how much I pump out, so a lot of times is the level of the aquifer the same?
So we do that by our static and our pumping levels.
Okay.
So we do that monthly. So we take our static is before we start pumping the wells. So groundwater from, you know, the top of the ground down to the water is a static level. Then the pumping level is the same thing, but it's down to the water after you turn the pump on. So obviously with years of drought, our aquifer depleted.
Okay.
It's just, it is what, that's why we have to go into conservation. But has the river ever went dry? No. I mean, we get down there. A lot of our bowls are set at 50 foot. So, and our screens are right there. So if it gets down below the screen where the bowl is, it starts sucking air. So cavitation, it'll melt them impellers and won't be able to pump the water. So that's why we have a certain level when it's at 37 foot for static. Right now, we're at 34. Then we'll go into conservation.
Gotcha.
Just because, 37 foot, when you turn them pumps on, it drops them down 5 foot, and you're getting pretty close to those bowls. So that's kind of how, and what I've learned is like the topography, the ground to the west of 39, like going up towards Deloitte. That's kind of where all that runoff's coming from. Because in our well field, you dig down about 5 foot and you hit clay for about 5 to 15 foot, and then you get back out of the clay. So clay is so porous that rain, I mean, they say it takes over 200 years to even get down through that clay because it's so porous, it's non-confining, so.
Is that what kind of keeps the surface water then out of the wells?
Correct. Yep. So we pump the water to the plant. It runs through aerators. And that eliminates a lot of our iron and manganese. Then it goes into 2 clarifiers. And then we add lime to there. So the lime part of it is just for just aesthetics. Just you don't have to, but we just do it for the public, to soften the water, because it's about a 20 grains per gallon raw coming in, and then we get it down to about a 7 or 8 grains per gallon with our softening. And it just, the softening part of it makes you minimize the chemicals you put in it. You're not putting in so many chemicals to try to alleviate, more iron, more manganese, so you're saving money there on the product you're putting into the water. So from there we put the lime in with a polymer, and from there it goes to some filters, and they're gravity filters with anthracite coal, rock, sand, things like that. Filters out more contaminants, and then from there it goes to our ground storage reservoirs, which are outside of our plant. We have 2 of those there, 1.5 million gallon and a 0.5 million gallon ground storage reservoir, GSR they call them. And from there, our high service pumps pumping up to the towers. So obviously it goes out to the distribution, it doesn't go directly to the towers, but so we have 3 elevated storage tanks, which people call water towers. And we have 2 500,000 gallon one. And then we have a 1 million gallon one up on 18th Street, kind of by the high school. And like those are how we get pressure.
So those get filled, I would say, then every day, because that totals about 2 million. You say you were doing average 3.2 million gallons, so those things get filled up every single day.
And there's level transmitters in there that go off of our high service pumps. So when the level gets down to a certain foot, then obviously our high service pumps kick on, and they keep it happy medium.
Okay.
Like in the winter time, we'll decrease the amount in there just so there's more water movement, just for the freezing effect in the towers, because that causes some issue with our pumps. If there's ice buildup in there, all of a sudden it'll be at 35 foot, and the next minute it'll drop to 31 foot. Pumps will kick on and ramp up and kick down. So so that's wow. We put a mixer in the new water tower up on 24th Street, and that does, the water quality, like the chlorine residual is a lot better on that side of town, and we haven't had any, knock on wood, haven't had any freezing issues, because the water is always constantly.
So what are the main chemicals that you, I guess, analyze for, that you say, this is what we don't want? Type of thing?
So daily, and I have some papers here for what our operating report, what we have to do daily. And I got some copies here if you guys wanna pass them around. That's kind of what we.
Long moving parts.
Yeah. I'll kind of flip you through that. You got something else?
This is just one packet.
Wow. But, so the price. So if we flip to the, let's see first. 5th page from the top. That kind of tells you what our routine monitoring is per day, per month, per week, what we have to do. Obviously, you're doing your chlorine, fluoride, phosphates, hardnesses, iron, manganese, you do those daily. And then we also have a slew of permits that we have to follow per DNR for other contaminants that are yearly, every 3 years, every 6 years, every 9 years that we do. Yeah, so the main things we test for are the fluoride, the chlorine, the phosphates, the iron and manganese on a daily basis.
Then does DNR then set what the levels that they don't want to see exceeded?
Yeah.
DNR sets those?
So like they have so if you go to page 6 of that first one, we have a DNR 4 log that we do. Maximum peak hour flow rates, 3,500 gallons per minute. The reason why they set that is because contact time for your chlorine in those GSRs I was talking about, those ground storage reservoirs, if they don't have the maximum amount of contact time for that chlorine to introduce to that water, then you could have some bacteria out in the system and we don't want that. So then it takes about 6 to 8 hours for that chlorine to do its job in those GSRs.
Did not know that.
Well, in like the minimum chlorine, so if we get down to 0.35 milligrams per liter, I need to call the DNR ASAP, because that can, by the time it gets out further in the system, it's gonna be lower than that, and we'll probably have some issues with bacteria, so. And then the water depth and reservoir, that's that GSR that I was talking about, that's 3 foot. So when it gets down to that 3 foot, I have to call DNR. Now we have our pump set at 3.5 foot. So if it gets to 3.5 foot, they'll shut off. So then we'll obviously, hopefully that never happens.
So Lucas, how long have you been the water guru for?
Well, I've been the water manager for, it'll be 4 years in June.
Okay.
So I've been at the.
So you've been at DMU for?
It'll be 11 years.
Okay, so in those 11 years that you're aware of, even though you weren't the water guru, you probably worked with the guy that was. Did DNR ever change any of those requirements? Did they change that?
The only thing that they ever changed was the maximum pH, which we always sent out a higher pH water. But they dropped that down because it didn't work well with the chemistry that we were putting in the water. So optimal pH is about 8.6 to 8.8, just because that's just how the contaminants, it kills those, and then the quality at that pH is where they want to be. Why did they change that?
And the standards that DNR has, they're, I guess, universal for every water treatment facility in the state of Iowa.
Correct.
They don't change it saying, Denison, DMU, you gotta meet these criteria. And Ottawa, you gotta meet this criteria. It's different. It's all this.
To a point, because obviously there's surface water treatment plants, and there's groundwater treatment plants.
Okay,
So
sure.
they're different, and then there's also there's water plants that kind of take both surface water, groundwater, so. It's kind of not cut and dry, but yeah, every facility in the state of Iowa has requirements that they need to follow.
And do you guys sell water to rural water? Does rural water get some water from DMU?
Correct, our contract is until 2036. It was a 40-year contract. And they can take up to 1.5 million gallons a day. Right now, they're about 800,000 gallons. And last time I talked to Jason Meredith, who is the manager at West Central Iowa Rural Water, our water serves 7 communities. Now, I don't know what 7 communities those are, but I know for sure Slushway. Yeah, but.
And DNR would have the same requirements for
West Central.
For them as they do for
Yep.
you. Okay.
Yep.
Lucas, have you noticed over the years, the process of treating the water to get them to these specs, has that changed?
I will say, like when we're in a drought, more susceptible to contaminants. Bump up our phosphate feed, and obviously our chlorine, but like a drastic change, no, I wouldn't say. We haven't had drastic changes in what we're feeding. Keep it pretty level.
So one of the things that we've talked about as a board has been, industrial or commercial development, the future of that in Crawford County, Denison area. How much more water can you guys use or could be used without causing an adverse effect to a DMU and its water supply?
I think that's $1 million question. Because what we've been implementing, to try to get more water here is we contacted, rural development, to put up a rock riffle dam. We did some studies on that, engineering reports, and that would have benefited, 5 of our wells, anywhere from 2 to 5 foot of static water. We're gonna put a 6 foot dam in the Billiard, and we actually got granted $1 million for that. But we need landowner consent, and there's, for whatever reason, landowners didn't want it near their property. And that would have gave us another 56 million gallons of capacity from the DNR. Because obviously you don't see it. You see the river raise a little bit, but you don't see what goes out into underneath the ground. So we transferred that. We're trying to transfer that $1 million to new wells, and we just got done last week performing 7 test holes, drilling down 65 foot and seeing the type of material in the ground. Unfortunately, only 3 of those wells showed any signs of potential water. You just run into the quantity. They like to drill down. If they get down to 60 foot, 65 foot, that's good. Anything less than 50, 55 foot, they just blow out right away because it's so influenced by the environment for rain and things like that you just be cavitating those wells.
Were you drilling those wells along the Billiard?
Yeah, so we went up north in Mark Lutz's property, and those were the 3 spots where we found water. We also drilled behind Whipco, found nothing there, and then we drilled west of the water plant, just south of our existing well, and found nothing. And then we drilled down by the soccer field south of the water plant. Okay. And so I've been in contact with Tyson to see if they potentially sell us a well of theirs, since obviously they don't. It's kind of hit and miss with them. The last conversation we had about 2 months ago was I wanted to get in there and do some water quality reports on the wells, and it's just been silent ever since. So they're tough. They do have a 1,200 gallon a minute well right next to the river.
So when Tyson was fully operational, they didn't use any DMU water. They used all their own.
Correct.
Okay.
So I would really like to get that 1,200 gallon a minute well, because that would be essentially 3 of our wells. So.
Are they still maintaining that, making sure that the water stays good in there, because if it's not being used?
No, as far as I know, they send us 20,000 gallons to wastewater plant.
To me, they,
So they're doing a little bit of stuff, but.
To me, if those wells are active, they still have to be, with DNR, they still have to check. If those wells are active, they still have to do water quality reports on them.
I just think they would want you guys to take it over so they didn't have to mess with it.
Yeah.
Or it helps.
And that 1,200 gallon water well.
Yes, I have. Many years ago on CBC.
Yeah, because that 1,200 gallon minute well was rehab in 96. 96. Yeah, I think.
Shut her down.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just have like our sanitary survey.
assuming that's where the questions came from, was what went out in the paper.
I didn't see.
So, well, we had the water quality report in the paper.
If we flip to the, I know it's all staple, goofy, so I don't want.
It's just coincidental it came out in the paper that you.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen the report yet.
It'd be this page right here. That's our sanitary survey. DNR comes in, field office 4, which is out of Atlanta. They come in every 3 years for a sanitary survey. It kind of just tells you it's an assessment that they do, what they find, if there's anything that we can do to, improve anything. That's kind of why I put that in there. The general description kind of tells you on the back of it, our treatment process.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's that. Then we do an annual water use permit, which you keep flipping to see that. Now this is what was pulled from our wells during the year. So that's what we pull out of the well field per month, and then obviously we do the annual total. So you're about 1.2 billion gallons that we're pulling there. And I will say that even though that is a continually incline, there's been a few years that it has been less than that 1.2, but it's about a 2 to 3% change every year. So if you keep putting in the towards the bottom, it just says each well, static, the pumping level, and then the date. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw the water quality report that says what we tested last year in 2025 with our results, and MCL is a maximum contaminant level. So obviously if you go over that, then you're gonna have to figure out other ways to treat the water, different types of production to get that underneath the MCL. And we didn't have any issues.
Is there one thing they typically tell us, whether it's bacteria or nitrates or something else that's pretty?
The big thing is making sure you keep a good milligrams per liter of chlorine out in the system, just for that bacteria, so you don't let the bacteria to grow. That'd be the main thing for us, is the bacteria, making sure there's enough chlorine. Typically we like to have about a 1.3 to 1.6 milligrams per liter. The reason why that is because, again, by the time it gets further out into the system, it falls out of solution. So, and the fluoride, which has been a big topic of discussion. So I talked to the Department of Home Health, and I know a couple other water plants that have gotten rid of the fluoride. Our naturally occurring fluoride is fairly low, about a 0.15 to 0.3, and we put in the optimal fluoride that the Department of Human Health wants is a 0.7 milligrams per liter. But we even standard that, we're at like a 0.4, 0.5 milligrams per liter. So we're just kind of different thoughts on that.
Just for curiosity's sake, but have you guys ever taken off the shelf bottled water and tested that just to see how it compares to?
I know that the pH is low. I mean, I think it's like a 7 pH.
Okay.
I think.
You said ours is around 8.5?
Yeah, yep. 8.6 to 8.8.
Okay. Oh, it's 8.6 to 8.8,
Yeah.
okay.
So.
That's an interesting point. I mean, you guys wanna run your pH at an 8-ish. But as a farmer, we tried to hit like a 6 to grow crops.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, what's healthy for a human is not healthy for the stuff that we eat.
I never thought of that.
Well, I think Luke's part of it is just the filtration part. He needs that pH for,
That's what
The
the chemicals
chemicals,
do, separate the contaminants out.
to get them to filter and separate, so.
Yeah, I referenced in there some of the things that we treat for, on the next couple of pages, but.
PFAS has been a big one.
Yeah,
Check that.
so PFAS, we did that early in 23, there was no detect on that. And then they did them quarterly in 24, and then they did one last year and there was no detects. So I believe that we're out of the sampling for now for PFAS. But yeah, I just kind of wrote the chemistry of it, what we test for, kind of what the health hazards are, if it would go over that MCL, that contaminant level. And then the ones that say NA on it, there's not a MCL set up per EPA. There's a secondary, but there's not an MCL that you have to follow, but we're still underneath everything into the secondary.
Thank you for including the definitions on that.
Yeah, I just
That's
kinda
nice.
looked it up just to, you know,
Yeah.
so people are wondering what health issues could be with it.
Yep.
And then like I put the copper and lead, I didn't put anything on there because we do that every 3 years. And I have them in my books here, but obviously we didn't have any detects that are over MCL, so we didn't have any issues with that.
I got a question about PFAS. Is there any of that that's natural occurring, or is that usually artificially
Man-made,
man-made?
Yeah,
usually comes from, like Des Moines got hit, you know, it's all over the news, but it was by the military base, so firefighting foam got into a well, got contaminated. Or surface water. And your PFAS from fertilizer, stuff like that, chemical in. It's in about everything.
Yeah, when I was out in Washington in February, it was a big topic of discussion because of data centers and stuff. And that's usually the really great big ones, and it's usually because something broke. You know, the smaller ones are self-contained, and really they're only water consumption is what evaporates out of there. Yeah. But so I was digging into all that then, because that was kind of how I understood that. That was mostly man-made stuff that was creating that. So how do you keep away from that? You know?
and the good thing about what we have at our wells, we have, it's like source water protection. You know, if you ever notice like our buffer strips and everything around our wells.
Right.
So that also plays a big role in getting down into the aquifer.
So what fills the wells? I mean, obviously, it takes 15 years to get in there. I mean, what fills, like, if you were gonna back up the river, yeah, with your low-head dam thing, if you, what, is it fill in through the riverbank?
It infiltrates
Correct.
through the, underneath, well, actually at the bottom of the river.
Yeah, so like when Avoca did theirs, I think it's been probably at least 3 to 4 years ago, they built a dam. I mean, they saw impacts within, I thought they said weeks of the water static level raising. Obviously, the type of soil that we have is different from them because we have so much clay. So we thought that we could see a impact within, you know, a few months from that damage.
So how does that, I mean, raising the level, but if it infiltrates through the bottom of the river, just the pressure?
Yeah.
The pressure.
It's kind of like a blender.
Okay, no, I understand. So,
The crazy part about that got approved by the Army Corps of Engineers before the state of Iowa approved it. And usually that's backwards.
Yeah, no.
You know, the Corps is like, could be years before they approve a project. And they approved that one down on the spot, so.
We've also I got a permit last year to pump water out of the river and just put it on top of the well field. Just to see if we would see an impact or static water level at one well. Now, when I got that permit, I think it was like August, September, so I'm pushing it off until this year. We have a 3-inch line, and we got a pump, and we're gonna pump it by well 10, and there's waterways, so eventually get back down to the river. It's just how much of that can we capture? And again, back to that clay layer, I'm kinda, up in the air about it, but until I try it, I'm not gonna know. We're also gonna dig a ditch.
You're at.
Yeah. We're also gonna dig a ditch, 500-foot long, fill it up, and obviously there's no moisture, and see how long that takes to percolate down through, if at all. So, we're gonna try. Cause I mean, if it does work, then potentially maybe we could just get a dozer or doze off that whole west side of the well field and just have a big reservoir in there and naturally capture it. So it's just little steps for now.
Awesome.
Very interesting. Any more questions, Kyle?
Well, I guess, our whole discussion was kind of originated with the water quality in the county, so, from your guys' standpoint, the water you guys are producing is very low in nitrates.
Correct.
To begin with, just due to the natural way that the aquifer works.
It's just, how it filtrates down. Well, it basically takes out all the contaminants filtering down to the soil.
So anybody
It's just like a big filter.
that uses your water should be reassured that this is not a problem with all the hype on radio and TV and Facebook. You should be very
Absolutely.
reassured that your water is not anywhere close to causing any concern.
Yeah.
And just
I have in there for nitrates, but you're just saying.
feels like a
It was a 0.6. Yeah.
And
if you
reporting levels of 10.
Yeah, reporting levels 10.
So
that's
you're
virtually.
very,
Yeah.
very long ways away from even a reporting level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in parts per million,
You're right,
so.
which I'm glad to hear. So I wonder how that equates in general to Crawford County as a whole, because I imagine that anybody with a well in Crawford County, at least a shallow well, it's gotta be somewhat similar circumstance, cross-section of a well would be similar.
Yeah, and again, if they had that buffer area around that, that 250-foot buffer area around that, it'd even be, less impactful for nitrates.
So that's somewhat reassuring to me that maybe Crawford County, but we still need to help explore this even more. And I think, I think you've touched on it, Lou, that that buffer strips and is key to that too.
And you say that about the dam, as I can just, from my own experience on the farm, is that my dad's main well is probably maybe 300 yards away from a very small pond. And when that pond dried up, his well was in bad shape. And so we went out there, or we hired it done for them to dig that out with a bulldozer, make it deeper and deeper. And since then it's dammed up more, but it's like, wow, now it seems like our well stays the same level. It doesn't go way down. And it's like, even though that dam is 300 yards away, perhaps, it does help with our water level. And I can just see that, you talk about that on the river, if you would do that, how that would raise the levels. And it's like, I've seen that.
Pretty excited about that, the Corps to approve it that fast.
Yeah, write that down.
Right on to that.
Any other questions from the guys? We really appreciate Lucas,
Yeah, this is really.
Kevin, for you guys coming up. On the last minute, we just were talking about it and at our meeting last week, and I said, well, I'll just call them and call Kevin to see who's in charge. I didn't know that you were the guy, but thank you. This is great information. And I think Kyle made a great point. It's good for the citizens of Crawford County to help you get your money or get your water from the
did you say with the
Safe.
rural water, what did you say is
Jason Meredith.
Jason, yeah, okay. It'd be interesting to get his point on where they collect their water from at their different locations, if there's similar nitrate
It
levels.
was not the guy that I contacted.
Okay,
That will be the guy,
yeah.
Jason Meredith.
They
I'll leave you.
Carter Water Company, it's just south of Lakeview. They built a new plant up there.
Mhm.
And I know they got more water than they know what to do with it. I mean, cause they dug down like 4 foot in their definitions of water.
Oh, yeah, Lakeview, I just,
Yeah, it's
well, and then like was that over?
Most of the
Bennett's
stuff
over
that's in
there,
here that we're
they're just
checking.
sitting on water. up
You
there.
get different methods to clean a lot of that, if there was, like, they don't have very deep wells, so obviously the filtration levels is a lot less.
yeah, so you're talking.
So they might have more to treat,
Right.
Yeah.
but there is ability to treat and clean up these things.
The way it filters too, the natural rock and gravel up there could be a whole different.
Well, and I was just thinking that, because you said that lake, that Schleswig is one of their, and I'm pretty sure Charter Oak gets water from rural water. I mean, wherever we're getting it from, I mean, do they test on that end then too, and they'll know if the pipes are getting a little bit filled up, so they always test everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll go out to the community and grab samples from homes or faucets, businesses. Just check.
What kind of kit do you use when you're out testing? You use just a little handheld kit?
Yeah.
They got
That
a
we
picture
could
of
easily
machine
get.
here, is that what you use?
Yeah, that's what we use, yeah. Corey, CL17 monitor.
Those things that the public can buy or use
Oh,
or?
I'm sure they can get them off a Granger or USA Blue Book or.
Okay.
Hawk. I mean, that's what we do ours through is Hawk. Yeah, we do 10 samples, 40 samples a month throughout the distribution, same spot every month. Hit every spot, every tower. So.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Coming up here.
Thank you. I'll pass your cards
Keep up
out.
Oh, yeah, I got
Good work.
So we'll pass them out.
Yeah, we got 6 right here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
See you later, take care.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have Holmes Murphy on our renewal of insurance. So I'm sure we have someone online. Looks like Keith is there.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for you. Can you guys see everything okay?
Can't see anything.
Perfect.
Sure.
There you go.
Now you got it. Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you all for the time today. I know we can kind of jump right into it. I know we met a couple months ago just to discuss the initial renewal and the reporting, how we've ran throughout the year. We'll have some conversations today around the medical side, how that renewal finally shaked out, maybe some things that we can look at, and then more on the ancillary side of the house. So the benefits regarding your life and disability, your work site coverages, your life insurance as well too. But before we get started, any questions that you guys may have before I start flipping through some of these? Perfect. Well, feel free to shout as I go through some of these. I know we've got Melissa and Hannah on the call too to help out. But medical renewal, just again highlighting kind of where we sit today. We're within the IGHCP trust. So we are combining our risk with other cities, counties, and other municipalities across the state of Iowa. That leads to a larger risk pool, leading to more stable renewals. So when we go and select these plans, again, we have two different plan options. We have the purchase plan, Blue Choice IGHCP Plan 14, and then we also have Blue Choice IGHCP Plan 16, which is your high deductible health plan. Now, if you remember correctly, what we do is we use our third-party administrator, EBS, to buy down to the employee-facing amounts, which is the PSF column. So you have two different plan designs that you're currently offering. The first is the PSF, that $1,500 deductible and $3,000 OPM. And then you have a high deductible health plan of $3,500 for deductible and OPM that you're buying down. So why we mention this is when we think about different types of strategy to help limit some of that increase, a lot of it does come from changing these amounts, the partially self-funded amounts, compared to purchasing a different plan from the Blue Choice IGHCP. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but that's kind of our starting point here today. And Terry, sorry, I see. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I thought you had a question. So here's what our renewal really shook out for it to look like. So there's a lot of numbers and letters on this slide, so I'll kind of break it down here just a little bit. What you'll see are two different columns. You'll have the current on the left and then the renewal on the right. So this is comparing the 2025 and 2026 plans to the 2026 and 2027 renewal cost. You'll notice that there are a lot of columns here, but really the one that we'll focus on is the one that says Wellmark increase 2.91%. So as a reminder, within the IGHCP trust, every single group within the trust gets the same exact increase. So every single county, city, and municipality got 2.91%. When we think back to the risk that you guys had on your plan, we were running a little bit over 100% loss ratio. Just to give some insight, as if we were outside of the trust, we have other private employers and counties and cities that don't sit within the trust. And those that received, or those that had over 100% loss ratio, meaning poor plan performance in general, anywhere between a 15 to 20% increase. So it kind of goes to show the stability piece of our IGHCP. And really the only increases that you're seeing so far this year are going to be on the fixed fees up top. So your Wellmark premiums, for example, on this first plan are going from $722.46 to $743.09. And then of course on the high deductible health plan at $654.29 over to $675.28. So before I go into any of the variable costs or some of the additional costs, do you guys have any questions on kind of what this looks like so far? Perfect. Perfect. So you'll see that the Wellmark premiums, this bucket is generally where we're going to see our increase and decrease every single year. So down below, the fees are the administrative fees that you're paying to the third-party administrator. So that's going to be EBS. But Wellmark's EOB fee, so for them to submit EOBs for the employees, to the employees, you'll have Holmes-Murphy fees, and then your IGHCP fees down below. Now, when you think about the partially self-funding bucket, so if you remember, when we create our funding rates, we're taking these fixed fees, these administrative fees, and then we are also including a buy down, or we're including a claims bucket that we're funding additional dollars to help pay for claims that fall within the purchase plan and the plan that we're buying down to. So as of today, Crawford County is assuming the risk between, if we go back just a slide, the OPMs between this 9,100 down to the 3,000. So that's why we include part of these claims funding, these dollars within here to help offset some of those claims that are being filed within that amount. So when we take our fixed fees up top, add in our variable fees down below, or excuse me, our funding down below, you'll see at the very bottom right column is our proposed rates for the 2026 and 2027 plan year. And this is without the county's contribution. This would just be the entire premium. And if you relate it again from last year to this year, right now it's only a 2.39% increase when we take into account the funding rates, which in general is very, very good news. Our trend right now that we're seeing on our medical increases are anywhere between 8 to 12%. So we've seen a little bit of a heavier year this year, which is why we were looking at the stability of the trust. I know I'm kind of TED talking at you guys. Any questions here, just briefly on this page by any means? Perfect. Well, we'll go on to kind of what we looked at for some further strategy items. And Melissa, feel free to jump in here too, because I know you included this. But really, when we look to try to find some wiggle room when it relates to either decreasing the fixed costs or some of the claims funding that we're putting in, I think our minds go to more of the contribution compared to the types of plans that you're purchasing. When we went back to IGHCP, we looked at actually changing how we're funding instead of buying down to certain limits. We actually increased the buy down limits to 2,000 instead of 1,500. So essentially, we're adding more responsibility to the employee and taking away some of the employer responsibility on just the plan design. Now, when we looked at different analyses, the impact to Crawford County was pretty neutral. So our thought was for very, very minimal percentage and changes to keep things status quo and really focus on how we're contributing to each plan and tier compared to the types of plans that we're purchasing. Knowing that the differences between the plan designs and how we're funding are very, very minimal to the entire increase in cost that we saw this year. Any
All good
questions?
news.
Yep. All good news. It is really, really good news, especially, we'd be having a different conversation if the plan performance was better. You could likely be subsidizing the trust, but right now you are benefiting from the trust pretty significantly. So the last couple slides on just the medical pages is more how we're contributing to the medical plan and tiers. So again, we're throwing a lot of numbers here at you. So I'll kind of talk you through it. Here on the left, you'll see in purple are going to be the current rates. So 2025 and 2026 are our current rates. Right now, Crawford County contributes around 83% for both plans and both tiers, which is really rich compared to what we're seeing at some of our other counties and cities. So props to you all. The employer contribution in a dollar amount is listed here down below. Just for reference, if you can't see on the screen, employee only is at 776.87. And on the high deductible health plan, it's 663.84. Right now, employees' monthly contribution is 159 for the copay traditional plan and 135 for a single for the high deductible health plan. Now, when we add in some of those claims funding, you'll see down below accrual rates. That's what we're funding to. So we're really charging for the entire cost down here, where employees' responsibility and employers' responsibility is up top. So we take the employer contribution, the employee monthly contribution, and then that's how we get to our accrual rates. Over here on the right gives an example if we were to keep the same employer percentages. So if Crawford County decided to retain the 83% contribution across the board, over here on the right, you'll see where the changes in dollars are. So in this yellow gold mud column, you can see that if we were to keep the contribution at 83% for Crawford County, the employer contribution for each plan would roughly increase by about $17 for employee only. And then if there's an employee plus one, it's around $43. Down below, you can see that for the employee, rates would only increase by $3 for employee only and roughly $8 for employee plus one. Any questions on kind of the contribution? I know last time we talked, there was just an idea of potentially trying to get that 2% increase down to a 0. This is the scenario that if we were to keep everything the same, our increase would sit at that 2.39 amount, and also that same amount for the employer, which would be Crawford County.
Ty, you had something? Or
No,
not?
I'm just
Oh,
pointing.
you're just pointing, okay.
I'm helping direct my eye.
Keith, something that maybe you'd be interested in knowing is I kind of thought going in that Crawford County paying 83% of the employers, or of the employees' insurance cost, seemed high when compared to a private sector. And so what I wanted to do was compare where do we sit statewide. And so I went to all 99 counties, looked up every single one of their plans, because many counties have multiple plans where they're trying to steer their employees to take a plan. So they might, be at 100% in this plan and well, maybe only 40% in this plan. And it does vary per county from 0 to 100% on both single and family. But when I plugged all of those in across the whole state of Iowa, the average that counties subsidize their employees came to 81.33% statewide. Which
Yep.
surprised. I thought we were gonna be really high, and it turns out that we're right there in the ballpark with every other county. So it surprised me. But I didn't know if you knew that or not.
No, it's a great point, and it's funny you say that because our alternate contribution falls right at that 81.2%, which is right in line with what we see as an average. So I guess to add a little bit more on that, I would say the 83% that you're currently contributing on employee only is likely average. We likely don't see the 83% on the family tier. Generally for municipalities, that's anywhere between 70 and 80%. So you guys are on the high end for the family contribution. But to your point, I think this is where a lot of counties and cities start to look at the different strategies, where they're contributing and what percentage. So I'll talk through this alternate, and then I'll also talk through an additional alternate that kind of maybe falls in line with what you're talking about. What we have on this alternate, instead of 83% across the board, we just held the current dollar amounts that Crawford County contributes. So instead of taking on the risk for the county, really this shifts some of the cost to the employees, where you can now see over on the right that $0 difference from 2026 to 2027 for the employer, whereas that increase would come down below for employee. So you can see the dollar difference goes previously, if we were to keep things the same on the percentage wise, it'd go from $3.51 for an employee only on the traditional plan to $20.63 for an employee on the traditional plan. So this is if Crawford County made the decision to shift some of the costs to the employees. Now, before I get into that third alternate, any thoughts behind this strategy? Is that something that you can see as a solution for this year, or just based off of kind of initial numbers and budget with a low increase, do you think we'd likely keep those contribution percentages the same? And we still have a lot of time to figure this out, more just conversational purposes.
Brett, Keith, I guess I would like to we got 3 department heads right here in the meeting. And I guess when you guys look at determining your health insurance costs for your employees, how much did you raise it over last year for the budget that you put forth? Was there a number that you guys used to prepare your own budgets as to how much you increased it or not?
No, we get our numbers set standard and we just get formulas. I'm pretty sure whatever my numbers are.
I think we just use the same
Yeah.
as our
It
current
seems
cost, because we didn't have any,
Right.
we didn't have anything to go
That's
off
why I didn't know
of,
if they just
so
estimated that, we
We just
estimate costs
use-
are gonna go up
no,
like they have in
we
the
used
past.
what we had
10% or something.
basically to
Okay.
budget that.
Yeah, and I'll even add into that. It's a good thought. And just speaking to Crawford County specifically, within that trust, the trust hasn't received, over a 6 or a 7% increase over the last 10 to 15 years. So it's a really stable trust. Performance is pretty nice. So when you think about budgeting for the future, I think a conservative number would be right around that 6 to 8%. So I think last year it was a 0% increase. Some counties actually received or actually all counties received right around a no increase. So over the last 2 years, it's only been a 1% increase averaged out each year. Any other thoughts on this slide?
I mean, certainly that's a discussion that we can have if we want to increase the contribution rate to get the county's, net increase to zero as far as, what we want to do. But like you say, we don't have to do that today, right? Or do we?
Correct. Yeah, you have a lot of time, and I'll say we can even share over an Excel document. I know we've been working with kind of Terry and Amy as well too. We can share that over, and it's interactive. So if you want to move around the numbers or percentages, it'll calculate what the employer and employee cost changes would be. And if you're looking for more direction or more ideas, we can put together as many as you want. So a lot of the times our counties and cities give us a budgeted number. Of, hey, we're trying to get to this number, create strategy behind that. But if you don't have a number, we can give you alternates as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave?
If we did leave things at an 83%, yeah, and 17, that increase it would be covered in your budget.
Yeah.
You have enough.
Correct,
I mean, we established that how
correct.
many years ago that was.
Yeah, this board used those percentages and, a number of years ago. I'm afraid if you do something like that, you're gonna put our employees at a net zero, pay increase. Because they're gonna be paying more to this than possibly what they're gonna get in a salary increase this year.
Right. Well, and to me too, I guess it's been historical that we've been at that 83 and 17% pay difference. I think it'd be a lot harder conversation if they're looking at a 10 or 15% increase.
Absolutely,
But we're looking at a 3.
right. And we do have almost $500,000 sitting in a self-funding fund to help compensate them.
Or old, but
Yeah, our old fund. Exactly.
But I know
Yeah.
you're saying, nice difference, zero increase,
Oh,
or not far.
And I'll just say one last comment on, I think, the alternate strategy. And we're not here to say which one's right, wrong, or indifferent. We're just kind of giving you guys the detail. The other comment was made about, directing employees to different plans. If there is maybe more of an increase on this employee contribution, you may see more migration from that traditional plan to the high deductible health plan, which then would in turn lower the entire cost for the county and employees. Playing that devil's advocate, but also to the point earlier, if that's likely the same increase as the pay raise for this year, you could kind of view it as a net neutral. So just wanted to share some additional perspective.
yeah.
I mean, that'd be like,
Appreciate it.
wow, that'd be worst case scenario. I mean, if we were gonna offer health insurance, just in case people were gonna lose an arm.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they weren't gonna use it. I think they were only gonna use insurance for like, they were on a deathbed. I don't know.
Get some time to think about it.
Well, a little time, very little.
I just don't.
Yeah, and we can chat offline too with Terry and Amy and just kind of bring some additional contribution ideas.
lost you there.
What's that?
What was your point?
Well, I think we moved everybody to that high deductible. I think we'd have to really start considering other options, moving percentages around or something like that.
High deductible.
Look, I'm curious, because we had an uptick. Was it, I mean, without knowing, I don't want to know anybody's names, obviously, but what drove that increase in our use of the insurance? I mean, was it major health problems, or was it, because we had a couple flu bugs, was it more of that kind of stuff? What?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, and I'll keep out of, I think, some specifics just because this is a public call, but I'd say from a diagnosis category, a lot of the surgeries started to become expensive. Saw some new cancers on the plan, and then of course we're seeing this everywhere, specialty medications, specific to the GLP-1, so those drugs that you'll see on TV. Just as a reminder, right now, your current plan does not cover GLP-1 medications for weight loss specific. So if you see any of those on your plan, and we can share them over to you later on the reporting, if an employee is using or spouse dependent a GLP-1 medication like an Ozempic, Mounjaro, Jardiance, Wegovy, that is for a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. Or what we're starting now to see is sleep apnea and cardiovascular. So if there are certain providers are now prescribing those medications for some of those diagnoses, those medications cost the plan anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a month, depending on which medication that they're taking. So
what we've
those-
been seeing, when we were
Go ahead,
seeing
sorry.
that them GLP-1s that were supposed to be getting the price drove down, is that actual or is that just DB hyperbole?
No, I think that it's a good conversation because we're starting to see a lot of changes in that market, but it's going to be over the course of the next 5 years to when we start to see that cost really reduce. Because there is a lot more competition coming to this space over the next 3 years, it's going to decrease pretty significantly. But right now, a lot of these drugs and manufacturers have patents out until 2030. So we're expecting to see the cost of those drugs remain the same for the next couple of years. And you see them on TV, so more and more employees are starting to ask their providers about it to try to get the prescription.
Okay, thank you.
Right, but if they don't have the proper diagnosis, they're paying full price for those drugs themselves, aren't they?
Correct. They would have to go outside of insurance. Correct. But you'll start to see a lot of providers or people go in and say, sure, I don't necessarily need it because I don't have type 2 diabetes, but I'm having trouble sleeping. And then they could be getting prescribed. So there's some here and there on how it's being, given, but that's a very, very, very minimal part of kind of what we see in our book of business. So right now, all the cost drivers on GLP-1s are coming from a type 2 diabetes diagnosis.
Yeah.
Which is a growing segment of our population.
Keith, one thing, and maybe you can share your opinion on this, but Terry brought up our health insurance fund is at like 500,000. We haven't seen, to me, big swings in that fund. It's kind of stayed steady around that for throughout the year. I guess your opinion on, I feel like we're on the right track with it. That's there to kind of absorb some of those costs.
Right, most of our costs are getting currently levied for, and we barely use that fund. It might swing down for an adjustment in the plan and then it comes back the next month. So it is barely getting, it's not getting used. We switched that over a year, was that last year or this current budget year, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say the good news to that is the less you touch it, the more those dollars retain your dollars. Obviously, that fund is there for the claims that fall within the IGHCP plan and then the plan that we provide to employees. So if we don't touch it, that's good news. Likely where your poor performance is coming from, and when I say poor performance, that loss ratio is how the medical carriers define how the county is performing. They want you to sit right around a 75 to an 85% loss ratio. So for every dollar you're paying Wellmark, they're paying out 75 to 85 cents in claims. Right now, you're over that 100% mark, which means that Wellmark's losing money on you. Likely that's coming from, and where I'm getting to is it's 1 to 2 to 3 really large claimants instead of a lot of people using their plan. It's mainly driven by 1 to 2 large claimants. Perfect.
That happens. Yep.
Yep, that's why insurance is there. And again, moving from a self-funded arrangement, I believe 2 years ago, until then, when we started working together, with Holmes Murphy, being self-funded, you also would have gotten hit pretty hard this year just because you're incurring all of the cost of those large claims up to a certain point. So again, we'll continue to monitor it. We'll share over a follow-up to Terry and Amy and different contribution strategies. And if there's any additional questions, we're happy to come out, get on a call, or of course, answer anything.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, just to finish up, I think this was kind of the marketing that we did this year. And for your ancillary renewals, again, think of your dental, your vision, your life and disability. Dental, with Delta Dental, we received a 4% increase, and that's going to be pretty standard. And I'll say, I know we've had some conversations around providers dropping in or out of network, especially within the area. Right now, Delta does have one, the largest network in the state, and two, the richest discounts. So even with the 4% increase, I don't know if we would find anything, one, more competitive, and two, for the type of product that they're offering. Any thoughts on Delta Dental as a whole?
I use it. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was an
Guys, like,
I haven't heard too many complaints, yeah.
through the few issues we had, I was happy with it.
You need a root canal, it's gonna cost you some money.
yeah, we always say if you're not hearing anything, it's likely good news. So that 4% increase is going to be around a $4,000 annual increase. So really kind of lower dollar amount than, of course, that medical cost. But if the product's working, 4% is really fair for what we're seeing in this market. The vision side is a little bit easier. So a flat renewal with Delta Vision. So likely keeping this in place. And again, you'll have this rate guarantee until 2029. So this will be a 0% next year as well, too. So we've got some years until we get an increase. But again, that annual cost is sitting at $16,000. So really where we went out to market was for the life and disability. And as a reminder, we've got life and disability, life and AD&D, long-term disability, and then voluntary life through NIS. Right now, we've got some pretty good enrollment, and you can see the estimated premiums on the right. They did not give us an increase for this year, but we did want to be proactive and go out to market to see if there is any additional savings that we could find, and we were able to do that. So we found the most competitive vendor. We did go out to 10 different vendors. The most competitive was the Hartford. We've got a lot of experience with the Hartford. They do a really, really good job from a service standpoint, paying claims. And they actually were able to come down 20% on life and disability, which is a great percentage number, but a smaller dollar amount. And then 4% on the long-term disability. So really, that's roughly a little over $2,000 for the savings on what you're currently spending. But they were also able to share that if 2 lines of voluntary worksite coverages are added, Harvard will reduce the basic life and LTD by an additional 5%. So those worksite coverages, I know we talked about last year, think of them very similar to AFLAC. That's going to be your critical illness, your accident, and your hospital indemnity. So those are all offered on a voluntary basis. So if an employee wants to elect it, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But if you do offer it, it is reducing the employer's spend by an additional 5% on these lines of coverage with the Hartford. Again, I'll pause there for a second. I know I'm kind of just talking right now. Any questions on this slide? Anything on what I just mentioned?
Well, I think we certainly want to make the changes to the Hartford.
I would, yeah, and I would agree with that. Not only does the cost look great, but they're also offering a 2-year rate guarantee. So even next year, you will not receive a renewal by moving over to the Hartford. So it will be a flat 0% increase next year as well.
Keith, what does that do to our employees as far as that transition? Will that be health questions? Will that be, what can they expect?
Yeah, Terry, that's a great question. Really nothing, because these employee lines of coverages aren't, or excuse me, these aren't employee facing necessarily. So it's not a medical, a dental, or a vision. Really, when these products come to life is if there is a claim that pops up, and it would be the same process of what you see with NIS today. So really not many changes. I see Melissa coming off mute too. So Melissa, feel free to add in.
Yep. So for the voluntary life piece, everybody will be grandfathered in at the amount that they have, and they will actually offer what they call a true open enrollment during your enrollment period. So anybody who has waived coverage before or wants to increase it can go up to the guaranteed issue amount without completing underwriting. So that's a win for the benefit for the employees who have never elected it and want to get into it for the first time as well.
Are those amounts about the same as what we've seen with our current carrier?
So we quoted the exact same coverage, so there is no change for the rates. There's no change to the GI amounts. Everything will run exactly the same as the other plan. It's kind of like a copy and pasted over from NIS to Hartford.
Okay.
The only other thing is we'll want new updated beneficiary forms, which is always a good thing to do anyway, but we'll want that on Hartford's form. If somebody fails to complete it, they will still accept one that was from NIS. And then if there's not on file, there's a process as well. So it's not, 100% need, but it's something that's really encouraged just to get them updated on that new form. That would be the biggest change that they would see.
And are some of these carry along? So when they leave employment with the county, I know like that, the voluntary spouse life and the voluntary life, those are transportable. I mean, they can take them with
So they
them.
do. Yep. They have portability and conversion options on both of them to take them with them. So they do have that option if they leave employment to keep them.
Awesome.
I agree with Craig. I think it makes sense to switch to Hartford. I mean, it's a good deal.
Just let them know that today then.
So Keith, do we need to, I guess, just tell you to switch to the Hartford? Or is that something you were doing?
Yeah,
Anyway.
if that's a confirmed decision, we're happy to get those changes started. This doesn't take too long on this side of the house with the ancillary benefits. But if you'd like for us to follow up in an email of all open decisions and a confirmed answer, we're happy to do that. But if you all agree that we want to make the switch, we can make that happen today. It would be effective for July 1st.
Okay, let's do that. And I don't know what the thoughts are, I guess, on the two lines of voluntary worksite coverage. If we want to give those options to the employees, are we currently offering anything?
You're not currently offering any of those, or excuse me, go ahead. Is that Amy?
No, Amy's not in here.
Oh, apologies. Yeah, you're not currently offering these lines of coverage today. We did look at them last year, and I would also say just benchmark. Most counties and cities do, just for an additional benefit. So really, there's no extra expense to the county. Similar to a voluntary life or any voluntary benefit, it's just giving an employee an additional choice for those coverages. And I'll say that here's an example of one of those plans. So hospital indemnity helps cover the cost of any hospital stays. So a lot of employees like to view some of these coverages as a gap to help pay for their deductible or their out-of-pocket maximum, especially if you're on like a high deductible health plan. If you're admitted to the hospital, you're more than likely spending a couple $1,000s. And for purchasing this plan, you can get some reimbursement on that, which is pretty nice. So that would be an example of it to answer your question more of a longer way. So apologies for the workaround there. And we don't need an answer today yet on the worksite coverages. Really, I don't know if we see any negative to it outside of it's just another line of coverage that we need to educate employees on.
I mean, you can see it wouldn't cost the county anymore to add those, and you can see from the insurance company's perspective is they're very profitable for them because they're giving us a 5% incentive.
Right.
To just give the option to the employees, not knowing if any employee is going to take that, they're still going to reduce our premium by 5% on our other stuff as far as the disability and life insurance, that sort of stuff. So I guess
I see no problem with that.
Something we can discuss.
Yeah. And I'll say the last thing that I'll mention on these products is there is an enrollment minimum, to your point. So they like to see roughly 5% of the population. So it's right around 10 to 15 employees elect these coverages, which generally we get some sort of a leeway our first year if we don't meet that amount. So. I think the last thing that we had were just the timeline and action items. And again, we'll follow up an email with kind of the things that we talked about today and what decisions that we'll need. But again, kind of made some decisions already today by moving toward the Hartford. So really the only decision left is if we wanted to add those worksite coverages or not. We'll confirm contributions for you all, how the county wants to contribute to each medical plan and tier. And then we'll discuss open enrollment, how we want to make sure we're educating employees. And then we'll have open enrollment effective for May. So we'll follow up for some of these items over email. Anything else that we missed today that you guys had questions on that we can help answer for you?
Next year we might have to about some.
Well, I guess that's maybe where my mind's at is, I mean, this discussion, take action, we'll probably go over the same numbers, but if majority of us want to keep it, or we all want to keep it at where it's at, then I see why not approving it today.
Right, that's where I'm at too. I mean, I think we can approve today, given the same percentages that we've done in the past, given the same plans that we've had last year, just to make it, I guess, consistent from the employee standpoint that, hey, it's the same, I got my same options that I had a year ago, kind of familiar with the plans.
Start thinking about it, and if they want to make any changes, so.
We still share the cost for, employees are gonna have a little bit of an increase that.
Right,
that
and we're gonna have a
3%,
little
we're
bit of
gonna have
an increase.
No, I think that's what was, thought how many years ago when that was put in the share the load, so.
Corey, do you have something?
Can I throw this for a loop? I was gonna wait for the public.
We don't like loops.
I know. The reason I was coming to talk about is all the small towns are having trouble with health insurance. And we've done a little research with Region 12, and there's 28E agreements we could run off of, and we could all join the same policy. I didn't want to interrupt your guys' stuff, but City of Dennison's in the same boat, Manella's in the same boat. You have to have 50 employees to join the IHGCP thing, which puts us between Denison and Manella, not quite there. So that's what I was gonna wait for the public input.
Well, good timing though. Keith, would that change our quotes?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I could hear that a little bit. Was that talking about joining a certain trust or?
Well, we have smaller communities in our county that are having trouble, I guess, getting health insurance, or their health insurance costs are going up at a higher rate. That if we would do a 28E agreement between the county and that community, and their employees could then get the insurance just like our county employees are.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me do some more digging on that, because a lot of it's just going to be within, are the employees eligible? I'll go make sure if that's a potential or not. As it relates to the rates, we'd likely see a shift, and it'd likely be a little bit of an increase. And the reason for that is if you're bringing more employees onto the plan, the Wellmark doesn't know the health status of those employees, so they're likely to come with a little bit more of a conservative pin than if you weren't bringing those on. Now, I'm just speculating, so I don't know, but we're happy to look at that for you.
What if they're already with Wellmark and they would be able to pull that data up to less than unknown?
That's a song and dance we've played so many times. I wish, and it makes sense. Unfortunately, they don't take that into too much of an account just because it's a completely new plan. Now, this is also, again, me speculating of what we see outside of the trust. Because you're within the trust, you may actually benefit from it because you're bringing in more employees onto the plan, more premium, which could also lead to better rates. So it's hard to say without getting the underwriting pen from Wellmark. But we're happy to look at that for you. Do you know how many employees that would be by chance?
Down to 41.
41.
Is that 41 on the plan, or is that 41 eligible employees?
on the plan, full-time employees, Dennis, you got 35?
I'd say it'd be 41 on the plan.
Okay.
Snow, Cory?
A lot. I have the plans here.
Are you at 12, Mark?
Well, this is, again, we can kind of connect offline too, but you know, we can get some exceptions for IGHCP. So if you're sitting at 41 enrolled, you know, we could look at that for you as a standalone to Crawford County, knowing that that would likely be easier than getting the exception to bringing them onto the plan. But we can ask on both because it's a great thought.
And that's just talking about you and Dennis.
Yeah,
Other communities that need it.
Right, well, Dow City's got like Landon's on the full-timers, will they pay him something? Peggy kind of said they are in between a lot of things right now. Slash week with what, 2 probably?
Guys would get 50.
I mean,
Maybe.
yeah, I don't know.
You guys
I just,
create your own.
I know what ours went up like 25% this year, and it's outrageous for 6 employees.
That's-
So
yeah.
that's why I think if, I didn't realize this was gonna happen, so.
But Keith, for today's purpose, we could move forward if we're confident in what we wanna do with
Yeah.
keeping things the same, and then talk to the cities, or have you connect with them and see what that would look like with Terry.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm more than happy to, if you want to share my email or grab the gentleman's email, I'm happy to reach out to him and we can have that conversation because we can sort through whether it makes sense. Again, if it's separate outside of the Crawford County plan compared to within. But yes, I'd say for a lot of our municipalities, going into a trust makes a lot of sense just because of the shared risk. So if we can get that exception for you with an IGHCP, it probably makes a lot of sense to look at. So we're happy to have that conversation with you.
Perfect.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Absolutely. We'll include that in the follow-up email. And then anything else today that makes sense to talk about while you got us?
I mean, I think we're at the point where, I mean, we can make a motion and approve plans and percentages, keep them as last year.
Yep.
And just get it approved today and
Switching to
Yeah.
Hartford.
And switch, right,
Adding those other two.
to, would you call them ancillary?
Yes, correct. The ancillary products. So your life, your long-term disability, and then the voluntary life as well.
But if we make that motion today and it works out for the other cities and our rates go, we thought they might possibly change the percentage.
But we can address that down the road if that plays out.
Correct.
Okay, all right. just-
Right, I think that they would be a separate standalone,
Okay.
where they would cover all of it.
So
So were you making that?
I will make that motion.
All right, second, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Perfect. Thank you all. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll be following up over email.
Okay,
All
so
right,
it sounds like, Corey, that they will give us a standalone policy and what that would cost.
Right.
Okay,
No, should be good. I think it helped get these small towns keep their full-time employees and.
well, I think, right, I mean, we've talked from a standpoint of that 28E is a good thing to use to try to lower everybody's costs.
Just
If
from
we
what I
can do
get, as
that.
long as you have a standing 28E of another service, this can be set up as a health care 28E.
You know, fire protection, 180 agreed.
We have law enforcement right
There you go.
Move on to courthouse, lawn spray bid. I think there were 2 of them in our packets.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to look at them.
Similar price, different.
One was by Phil's, one was by JP Turf. JP Turf was $954, Phil's was $1,080.
One was 3 passes and
One was 6. So, for, so what do you want to do? What's that?
Phil's with 6 passes. Or a little bit
Or
more.
fertilizer, 2 weeks spray.
I think Jordan doubles his up. He does.
Jordan actually has 4 fertilizers also on there.
So
Yeah.
about equivalent.
I think they just-
Yeah, I
I
think
think they
it's the
just
same
combine some
application,
things.
applications.
So,
I think just take the lower.
Okay.
Find a way to do it.
Yep.
I don't think we're gonna meet
Is that a motion that you say we take the lower bids?
JP.
JP at 9:54.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bid by JP Turf and Pest, $954. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Move on to canvas, special election, held in Kyra.
Where are, oh, you have them. Underneath. I know I got mine in too. Oh my gosh. That's just transaction. I get my papers sorted out here.
Shouldn't take long.
Alright.
Alright,
I'm on
Give me
it.
a second.
Anything else you have to pass out?
I do one more.
Okay.
Sorry. This. You have election day. I think you have absentee.
I'm ready.
And you have election day and absentee.
See, alright.
Want me to start?
That's just a one time.
City of Kyron, City Council at Large, Megan Lane, 17, Bob Brown, 37, Scott Anderson, 47, and 7 write-ins.
Alright.
Megan Lang, 0, Bob Brown, 3, Scott Anderson, 2, write-in 0.
Oh, that's exactly what this shows.
Sweet.
great
That's
job.
it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Alright,
Look for
Well
two.
done.
That's the shortest one of them we've ever done.
everybody. Always wondered why. Alright,
After June, it will take a little bit.
Count your blessings and move on, right?
So move on to no naming of the 7th member of the MSAC board.
and second.
So I know there's been discussions, we have a name. Anybody want to move to appoint her?
I'll make a motion, we appoint Kendall Estevez as our 7th member to the MSAC board.
I'm going to talk to Kendall. Kendall has accepted and
Yes, she
is
has.
willing and looking forward to serve. So we have a motion by Jean. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion?
I know that she's gone back and looked at the public hearings that we've had to kind of get up to speed on what's been talked about. And so I think she'll be a good member and knows what's going on.
I was thrilled when she accepted. That'd be great. Any further discussion?
Kendall will fill that position very well.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Move on to discuss, take action, retain outside counsel or apply to ICAP.
I put that on the agenda. I would recommend we swap that one and the closed session one. Take them.
That makes sense,
That makes
yes.
sense.
Yeah.
Didn't even know what
And
we're
then just
talking
go to
about.
citizens input.
Okay.
Okay. So that moves us on to citizens input. Anybody in here would like to say anything?
Oh, I do, just really super.
Louise?
I always have something, but I haven't been over for a while. So,
You're welcome. I missed you.
there's a lot going on in the VA role. Mostly good, but of course, we're still at war with the governor's office and IDVA over legislation, but hopefully that'll settle down and everybody will be happy or retire. So, I mean, realistically, we're losing a lot of service officers over this because people are just frustrated. But I don't want to go there. So anyway, it's outreach time. So I made, Dow City is next week. I made a save the date because then that way you know what I'm doing each month. Because of course, you know, we like it when you guys know. And so.
Where'd we go? Sorry. Here we go.
Next
I'll get
week we are in Dow City. And that'll be similar to like what we do in Manila, except it'll be a little bit smaller since the Brazel building is a smaller location. But the Omaha VA Medical Center will be there. A lot of our local providers that work with our veterans. And I invited Brittany from Harrison County and then Carmen from Shelby because they're all tasked with doing outreach and a lot of them have never done it. So, you know, I like to combine with other counties anyway. This way they can kind of see what I do and get some ideas. May 12th, we're doing the same thing, but a little bit bigger in Deloitte, because we'll have a bigger room, so we'll have more providers. And that one, Sac and Idas counties will be coming over. Because, you know, we don't care where the veteran comes from, but I want those service officers need to, because when I call them, I said, do you want to come? Well, what do I have to do? Well, you know, the governor's telling you you're not doing enough. You need to start doing something. They want us to do more outreach. We're fine. IDVA said that's the only thing they like about it is that we do a lot of outreach. So we're not on the chopping block with that one, except they want to take our money away. So we can't do it. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. I think it's their first attempt at the governor regionalizing and taking over our offices, quite honestly. Anyway, I wasn't going to go there because it gets me all worked up. June 17th is Van Wall. We're doing it on a Wednesday this year. The guys at Van Wall decided Wednesday might be better because people don't go to the lakes and golf as much on Wednesdays is what they said. So we'll try it. We'll see what we're doing. And that'll be pretty much the same. Tent. Do you still have the tent? That big seed tent? That wasn't you? Okay, I'll figure it out. Oh, okay, I'll get a hold of him then. Because that worked out really good a few years ago.
Sell it. Didn't she buy it?
What's that?
Brothers' tent, didn't he buy it? Didn't you get that tent from Brian?
The big
Oh,
seed.
the blue and white one that I
Yeah.
got.
Ooh, we need that for Van Wall.
That's where you got a lesson from me.
Yeah. 2 years ago. Yeah, and last year we didn't, and I regret that because it was 99 degrees, but God will not do that to me 2 years in a row. Okay. Well, probably blow away this year, but hopefully it won't be 99 degrees. And then Veterans Day at the fair is July 22nd. So that way you have all the dates, you can plan accordingly. I'll have Deloitte flyers ready to go out early next week. The other thing I wanted to, so can you guys?
What does that typically cost you to put that?
That one, maybe $100. Those aren't very expensive at all because that
Well, I
one.
know you said that having some of this stuff was gonna be part of
Well,
your problem
because
with financing. But you know, I mean,
Donates, right?
Smithfield donates to that one typically. Last year we used leftover hamburgers from Van Wall, so.
I mean, I just,
Yeah.
even reaching out, because I'm sure
Well,
my
and I
riders,
can't, and
the
I mean-
riders would support that.
Well, and you know, before we had that 10,000, we still did all the same outreach, but the community supported it, the businesses and stuff. I just didn't have to go there, which is nice, but they financially support them. So where there's a will, there's a way. We'll get it done one way or another. The other thing that next Tuesday, the commission meets at 9 o'clock and on the agenda will be our VA van is going to be going back to Omaha. We're not going to have the van service anymore. And we need to just make it official with the commission. I've been watching it for 4 years. Every month I report the usage to the commission and we can go ever since the clinic opened in Carroll, our ridership went down. Vietnam veterans aren't using it like World War II and Korea did. And now the VA is doing more care in the community, except here because we don't have a contract at our hospital, but they're going to doctors for specialty care, like in Carroll and different places. So, so that they're not always having to go to Omaha. So we may go once a month, we may go 4 times a month. Now that was fine because the VA is paying for the van. It takes up a valuable parking space in my little parking lot, which is the next thing. We still need to buy that building next door, knock it down and make me a parking lot. Just saying, keep that in the back of your mind.
Got it.
Yeah. Corey's not here, Corey agreed with me. But anyway, I was looking for backup and he left. So anyway, the numbers, as long as they're paying for the van, who cares? It just sat there. As a taxpayer, I felt on this side that it's a waste of money to just sit there most of the time, but as a service officer, when we need it type of thing. I've talked to the people that do ride the van. All of them have family that are more than willing to take them, or they can drive themselves. They just took the van so they didn't have to buy gas. But a lot of those get travel reimbursement from the VA that they don't get when they take the van. So most of them, we have one older couple, and between their family, their church, and myself, I would take vacation time to personally take them down if they have to go. But anyway, but the nail in the coffin with the whole thing was the federal VA decided that every volunteer within the VA, and we're even talking the ladies that push the coffee cart around the hospital, they have to have a federal background clearance and check done. Now, I have it, I've had it because that's what we get for our gift cards that we access our computer. And it took me 2 years because I was one of the first to get it done. Iowa was the first ones that we were eligible for it in the nation. And they kept losing. It was a nightmare. It was 2 years from hell. Well, they got that streamlined for us because that was 20 years ago. But with the volunteers, the problem is they can't just come to my office. I can't do the paperwork for them, have them sign it and send it off. They have to have an email address. It has to be done on their computer. It cannot be done on our computer because they get verification codes sent to their personal email. My van drivers, only one has a smartphone. The rest have flip phones. So we can't do it that way. And then Omaha put their head, I'm gonna call them out, they put their head in the sand. The Des Moines VA started the process with their volunteers like September, October. Well, Omaha, I found this out a week ago when I drove the van down so I could do a surprise attack in the volunteer office. And they said they had heard this rumor that they were going to have to do these background checks until the volunteer's badge expired. So that way they could stage them. Well, guess what? That was just a rumor. So they didn't start until end of January, early February. If you're not through this process by the end of this month, you can no longer drive or volunteer. Our van drivers are all stuck in limbo. The part with the Omaha is done, but it's the national part now. They're not getting their emails. The Manila FT and whatever their internet provider is blocking them and won't let them come in. Dan, it hasn't been that long since Dan's been retired with a high clearance from the National Guard. Can't get his done. Wow. Lauren Straight, they think he has the wrong birthday. I think Lauren knows when he was born.
Very sure.
It's more.
Yeah, and Glenn has given up. Now, you know it's bad when Glenn Maycomer gives up. And Al Johnson said, I'm just retiring. And that's where most of them came from. Glenn wanted to retire in July anyway, because he had it in his head when he's 80, he should retire. I don't agree with that, but he said he would do it and stick around to help out. So they're not gonna be done. So the van will just go back. I'll get a parking space. I'll deal with getting everybody down there. I did have a veteran, I guess, last week. One of my favorite veterans in Denison who likes to talk a lot from Denison. Went to the district meeting and, no. He went to the district meeting because he's one that rides the van occasionally. So I told him, and he went and said, well, Crawford County doesn't want a van anymore and I'm gonna raise hell over this. No, it's not us not wanting a van. It's just, I'm the only one after April 30th that can drive the van. And I can't leave the office to drive the van all the time. I do it when I have meetings so that I don't have mileage and all that stuff. It just makes sense, but it's a mess. So he called me yesterday to ask me a question. He goes, oh, by the way, in case you hear something, I said, oh, I've already heard. I've had a few Legion commanders call me because they knew the real story. And he was, bad mouthing Omaha and everything else. And so he told me, he goes, well, I'll stop talking about it. But I didn't want if anybody came to you and said, why don't we have a VA van? We've had it. We were the first van in Iowa. We've had it since 1999. And we used to go 5 days a week and sometimes twice a day. We do a morning and an afternoon run back in the heyday with the World War II veterans. But that was before Carol. That was before care in the community. So times just changed. Shenandoah has sent their van back already and 2 or 3 counties in Nebraska as well. And so I put the largest blame like Omaha for not starting early enough that we could figure out all the glitches. But, and then the worst part is, if we want to get a van, we can have a van back again. Which is, we made sure of that. That was one of my commissioner's questions, but it's gonna take 2 to 3 months to clear a driver to drive the van. So if the volunteers want to start volunteering again, or we have new drivers, 2 to 3 months, by the time they get it cleared and they may drive once a month, I don't think they're gonna want to go through that process. It's very painful. So it's been crazy town in our office lately,
What do
but
they do different?
Hmm?
I mean, the process to get clearance.
because you have to do that federal background check. Because right now, it's a large packet of information and, you know, HIPAA and sexual harassment and all these things that they have to read and sign off on. And then they have to do a driver physical to make sure for liability with insurance and stuff like that. That process usually takes maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It's just waiting to get that physical scheduled with occupational health. But now they've got to do all this other stuff first. And I mean, when I did mine, they lost my fingerprints and they made all these different mistakes along the way. And one of my background references died in the meantime. So I had to start over because I had to fill out a whole new form. I couldn't just give them a new name. You had to start all over again. Wow. And I'm like, well, if they weren't so slow, she might have been alive. And the sheriff's office kept calling me, why are we getting these federal background checks on you all the time? And I'm like, I'm trying to get it done. So anyway, so that's where that is. But then, you know, it'll be a little easier parking in the end of the month, Glenn will drive the van and I'll drive down and bring him home. And we're just they said, well, you can keep it for a few months. No, if we can't drive it anywhere, it's not gonna sit in our parking lot. We will bring it down and give you the keys. We're not paying a dime for it. So there's no reason to have it sit there.
Got
it. So anyway, so that is everything in a nutshell.
Thanks, Louise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be more. When legislation goes through, then we'll have to have a talk about amending my budget because I'll need more money. Possibly. Possibly. So
Save that to the end.
Yeah. Well, I kind of warned you if you know, I talk fast, but I think I mentioned it with my budget, but hopefully they'll keep our allocation money this fiscal year and they won't start that until 2027 offset because we'll go from 10,000 to 2,000 a year on that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. See ya.
Anybody else here, Sherry?
I just wanted to let you guys know that we only have, as of this morning, 2.10% left to collect for taxes for the year. So it's just under $800,000. So we're on a pretty good, we're sitting pretty good with collecting.
Is that typical? Or is that
It's
better
nice.
than?
It's better than what we were last year.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
I had a question, I just didn't catch Kendall's last name.
Estivez.
Estivez?
Yeah.
Esteves, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
So, and that's total taxes. And that's for, in the county.
February was the first half, March is the second half. So for the whole year, we only have
Everybody's
everybody's.
all the authorities.
Yeah, all authorities, I guess. That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
But in consideration of stuff that's possibly tied up in the states yet getting settled or whatever, that turned out pretty good.
I feel like a lot of it is oversight because tax statements are only sent out one time a year. So a lot of times the second half is just clearly oversight. People don't realize that their homes are paid for now, they're no longer escrowing, so it's their responsibility to come in. We've had some of those. Some of them swear that we send 2 tax statements out a year. It's never been done as long as I know.
So that's mostly that 2.1% are just people that have paid their first half, not the second half.
A lot of it is.
I know when I first had my house paid off, and I like, why would I want to pay all my taxes up front? And because I forget to pay them. So now I always pay them all up front, all of the whole year, just so I don't remember. And then I get a letter and I get my name published in the paper.
You get a
You gotta
letter
wait a
at
long
least
time to
You get
know.
a letter
In
at least a month
stairs.
before it's
Right.
published in the paper. That's true.
Yeah. Anybody else in Zoom that have anything to come before the board? If not, next thing on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session per Iowa Code 21.5.
Make a motion.
Second.
Closed session.
Second.
Motion by Gene, second by Dave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are now in closed session. 11:45.
Thanks for coming.